Hi. Ooh. It got me. Bonbon's outside right now, but let me make sure my mic is on before I get started. Welcome. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Club Sesh. I just want to say a quick hello to Hookstergram. We have Kathy here. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Harry Lee. Welcome to our Club Sesh live stream. It's 4:20, so it's taking a bong hit. That's right, Madam Dram, ripping it. Just a ripping and a tearing. So gross. This is some XJ13 from THC Design. Hi, Rig Rentals. Welcome to the live stream, Club Sesh. Bonbon is currently outside. She's probably sunbathing, although she gets overheated easily. So I don't know why she keeps doing that. She loves it. All right. So if this is your first time here, which it seems like, hi, Chris. Hi, Fraggle Rock. Pothead. Seems like these got some old friends here. But if it is your first time here, or you're watching this later, this is our Club Sesh. We hang out. We get into the weeds, literally and figuratively. And we talk about what's going on in cannabis, in culture, and sometimes we talk about the chaos of politics because that's interesting to me. And I think it's good to stay in the know. Jaden, you are not late. Jaden, is it Buontello? Is that how you say your name? Buontello? Or Buontello? I'm going to say it's not the second. It's not the latter. Anyway, welcome. You're right on time. You're always on time. No one's ever late to the sesh. Don't worry. You can jump in whenever you want. So today, what are we going to talk about? The theme, kind of the whole theme of today is craft over clout. We're diving into how hash makers pick strains, which is a topic that was brought into the group sesh or a group chat by Michelle. She was curious, one of my Patreon members, the Edibles Club. I can tell you, let me get you that link. Michelle wanted to know, because different strains have different, they wash differently. When you make a concentrate, they have different yields. I'll hear from Sonoma Hills Farm, we're talking about different strains to use in the caramels. And I guess Pink Jesus doesn't wash very well. They don't get a lot of yield off of that strain. So we're looking at more like the cherry cheesecake and the orange creamsicle. And it's really, the hash makers are the real experts and artistes in that. Hi, Reverend Minty Fresh. Minty Fresh. I love it. Boop. There's Michelle. So Michelle wanted to learn about that. And ideally, what I would do is have some hash makers come on the show. I'm a little nervous to do my FaceTime. Do my FaceTime again because we had the Dank Duchess come on, which was amazing. And I felt really badly because the connection with her wasn't great, and so it felt like I was doing her a disservice. I mean, you guys still loved it, but anyway, let's put that there. So, and I should have my cookbook here for you. 1 second. Let me grab that so everyone can see. Bonbon, what are you doing? What are you doing, Bonbon? Oh, and an ashtray. Are you coming in? You gonna go sit down on your bed? She's probably gonna go and sit right on the couch. Wherever I don't have the camera is her favorite place to be. So, first we're gonna talk about the art of concentrate making. Oh, Cody Paradero, big fan, big hi. Hello, big hi. I'm from Livermore. Oh, awesome. Livermore, California. Yeah, that's up north. Cool. Very cool. Hi, Petra. Welcome. How are you doing? How'd your daughter do in her horse competition? Did she get any ribbons, any prizes? Isn't that always fun? Can I help you? I don't care that you're twirling. She's huffing and puffing and twirling for me because she just wants treats. It's funny. My friend was trying to tell her to sit down the other day and she kept pointing at her, and Bonbon knows pointing as roll over. So she just was maniacally rolling over. Jaden, I love hash and concentrates. For a caramel, I imagine I would use a fresh pressed rosin or hash rosin to keep that sandy but sweaty consistency while not ruining the caramel. I haven't really noticed a difference in using rosin versus I started making caramels with cold water hash before it was even cool to do solventless full spectrum concentrates. I just was cooking with what was available to me, and hash was this like really groundbreaking way of making edibles because when I first started, people would give me garbage bags full of trim and shake and things, and trying to make really tasty edibles out of that is difficult. It's inconsistent, and you're going to pull a lot of that kind of plant flavor from it. Petra, just ribbons. Hey, not just. That's great. She's cleaning her car. Good for her. That's a good hey. Always had a messy car as a kid, man. I just don't want to take the weed taste in it. You don't want the weed taste, Rig Rentals, right? Well, if you totally want to get rid of the weed taste, so after I was cooking with hash, I got into the legal market with Cornerstone, now Wellness at the time Collective, and we switched over from cold water hash to distillate. And I started using distillate, which is they distill, like the name says, they distill everything down to just the cannabinoids. So just THC and what other cannabinoids are present in that, whatever input they're using. You can create distillate from flour, from hash, like you're just concentrating it even more, distilling it. And so that completely takes out any of that, the flavor, because you're stripping out the terpenes and the flavonoids and flavorants, all of those things. But, you're left with just pure THC, CBD. And then if you isolate it, they can further isolate it. And these are different processes and techniques. I don't do this work. This is not my forte. I know about it because I buy concentrates to cook with for the club and for Marigold Sweets. And so we Arso strips terps. I mean, I'm sure there's, oh yeah, RSO is going to be a full spectrum, and it's decarbed. That's right. So you can use something like RSO or FSO, whatever people want to call it. And I, wait, Chris Falconer. Oh, hi, Alex. Sorry, the chat is coming in quickly. Howdy, Alex. Chris Falconer, watching for a long time. Thanks for being such a great resource and human. Just got the cookbook last week. Awesome. Thank you. Let me know what you think. And thank you, everyone, for posting such awesome reviews on Amazon. It really helps because people don't know who the fuck I am. So they're like, why should I listen to this lady and her book on how to eat weed and have a good time? So Michelle, pollen has been a bitch here and you can't even tell my car washed. Oh shit. I'm sorry. Carmen is just getting pummeled by the eucalyptus trees here, but I got to figure it out. RSO is queen. It's true. What advantage does distillate have from cold hash? Like, what advantage does it have over cold water hash? Well, basically, you're taking away all of the flavor. So if you don't want edibles to taste like weed, use distillate, right? Or isolate, which is different than distillate. It's further, you're isolating just the THC, just the CBD, whereas distillate has all of the cannabinoids, but there aren't any terpenes or anything like that is left in the oil. They get it clear. That used to be the real hot shit. They'd call it clear. Chris from Clear used to come on the show. I do not like distillate for anything personally. And so yeah, hash on the other hand is, even though you're using water, it's solventless. There's nothing left over in it anyway. And so you're just making it really cold, the trichomes, and then you use agitation, literally stirring, right, to break off those trichomes. And there's different levels of quality of hash. There's Percy hash, there's 5-star hash, full melt, all of this grading system for hash and certain qualities that you're looking for in concentrates. Now, when you're cooking with concentrates, it's a different thing, right? I wouldn't make, and I know there are chefs that would do this, but I personally would not make a burger out of Wagyu. I wouldn't. It's not the right application in my opinion. I know there are chefs that do that. Or maybe like a smash burger, right? Maybe like a big Wagyu, whatever. It's an analogy for a reason. So cured concentrates as well. I know. Yeah. So ice hash, fresh press, live resin, cured resin, distillate. Right. And you can make live rosin. You don't have to use hash to make live rosin. Live resin is not solventless. Live resin is using solvent. So live rosin press, right? So it'll be solventless. It's kind of like when they make olive oil, they just squeeze out the oil. With a rosin press, there's a small, low amount of heat, and then they're using pressure to squish. So they squish out the resin. So I love burger. I love beef. Petra, you're funny. Okay, so anyway, that, when you're smoking something, it's completely different, I think, than when you're cooking with it. And if you do want to cook with hash that is super high quality, I'm familiar with resin, not rosin. So resin is made with solvents. Rosin is made using a rosin press. And so it's using pressure and a little bit of heat. Live is referring to how the material is when they press or extract or make a concentrate out of it, wash it. So either it's is it flash frozen? I want to make sure that's the right way. of saying it. Fresh frozen, sorry, that's the right word. Fresh frozen, right? And there's so many different techniques and processes. This is an entire category, and there's subcategories of this, and there are real artistes, and like Frenchie Cannoli, R.I.P., was a hash artisan, and he traveled the world teaching people how to pick the right strains and wash them. We had one of his students on, another hash maker, hash artisan, the Dank Duchess, Sheila. She came on and talked to us about hash making. Sunburn is my top 3. Jungle Boy's rosin is some of the best in my opinion. I'm reading these. You can make a sausage with Wagyu, or you can make a beautiful steak dish. One will cost $5, one will cost $500. Know how the end product makes the price, people? Yeah, but if you're looking at your margins, right? Your margin on that sausage is going to be garbage unless you can charge enough money to cover the cost of the Wagyu. So when you're making edibles, like, people really expect edibles to be inexpensive. That's what I've come across as an edible maker in the industry for a long time. And they're buying price per milligram. So they don't look at it and they go, oh, these are really nice. It's made with live rosin. It's beautiful. Like my chocolates, right? It's hard to help to get people to look at those and go, okay, I've got 40 milligrams in a box here, and then look at 100 milligram bag of gummies and see why it's worth paying more for less milligrams. For a lot of people, it's not worth it. So anyway, let's get back into our topic, because I can always... Flowery is proud, but their online menu is more appropriate. Got it. Actually, I just got Cranberry from True Leaf today, but I haven't been in months. Cool. Sanctuary is nice. Also the Flowery. Wow. Lots of convo happened today. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm happy about it. Last Wednesday was really fun too. Saturday's sesh, the kitchen sesh with the burrito, they were so good. Homemade tortillas, really the key. I'm having coffee. It's late for coffee, I know. It's a little strong too. They have amazing RSO, but their rosin is bukus. You guys are funny. All right, so let's look. We're going to start. So first we're starting with the art of concentrates. Then we're going to go into the many, 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 many long list of medicinal benefits of cannabis throughout the body. And now that was suggested by Kathy in the group chat. And then we have our final suggestion. Apologies. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. For our topics today. And if you want to have a say with what happens, feel free to join that Patreon, the Edibles Club. So Kayla wanted to know what traditions, cultures significantly influenced, changed your cooking of cannabis. So I can answer that, but I thought it would be cool to look at the history of cooking with cannabis, because it has a very long history. Oh shit, Michelle. I put on monetization. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep the live going. Ad sucks. Okay, I can turn off the monetizing. Okay? Okay, yeah. Basically, that's not fair. I don't want people to have to pay more to not have ads in the live stream. Basically, I was thinking, 1, I need to make more money from the live stream. But 2, I was also thinking, I wonder if YouTube's not prioritizing my live streams and pushing me out because they can't make more money off of me. Does that make sense? Oh, wait. No, I actually saw okay. All right, you guys. I mean, I have the super chats too. The club is super generous. I love my club. I don't want people to be annoyed by anything. I just wanted to try it on this live stream to see if YouTube, 1, to make money, yes. But also, I really think if they are not making money off of the live and they don't have potential to make money off of the live, they're not going to be promoting me. So that's what I'm trying to make happen here. We got to spread the word. And then finally, yes, we're going to talk about the history of cannabis, cooking with cannabis, history of edibles. Sorry. And Alice B. Toklas will be on our list of things we're going to talk about. She had a very controversial recipe for hashish fudge, if you want to call it that. In her cookbook, eponymous cookbook, the Alice B. Toklas cookbook, and she's legendary. Gertrude Stein was her wife, and Gertrude Stein was a very prolific art patron, and she, supported a lot of the contemporary artists of her time. And her wife, Alice, wrote this cookbook, and there's just this one recipe, and it's the first published recipe of an edible, like straight up. She's not, there's some recipes we look at and we're like, did they mean this to be cannabis? But anyway, I can deal with ads for the experiment. Cool. We'll figure it out. Same, leave ads on if it's going to help break through the algo. I really feel like it's going to. I feel like I noticed like as soon as I got super chats and stuff, YouTube was really pushing me, and I get cock blocked on so many platforms because of what I do. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. That's why I say word of mouth. If you can spread the word of mouth on the book, that's always very, very appreciated. Okay, so let's get started with hashmakers and their strain selection. That's what's first up. And we're not talking about like just clout chasing on Instagram. We're talking about the kind of shit that actually takes some skill, patience, and the right genetics, which is really important. Clit blocked. I mean, listen, we don't have to get so genital about it. So there's the deal. Here's the deal. There's the deal. Not every strain is, I don't want to say made for hash, but will give you as good of a yield. And hash makers really know this because they're working with different genetics and different strains, and they're figuring out what works best for what they're doing, because a higher yield with the same amount of effort and equipment and all of that will give you, I think I'm going to switch to joint actually, will give you, it's better bang for your buck, because labor is always going to be a cost that's super expensive and doesn't go down. So trichome heads matter. The shape of the trichomes, the cuticles. Hash makers want big, bulbous heads with weak necks. Okay? I know it sounds a little weird, but that's what they're looking for. I like a good buttery hash. Goes great on nips. Oh my God. Cultivar resin yield is quite a study on its own. Exactly. But the reason they want those weak necks is because they want it to snap off, wash off easier with creating hash. So let's go to, oops, I don't want to open this. Close. Heads matter. That's right. Hashtag heads matter. It's true. Let me do. Just trying to get to all of my links for the live stream. And then I'm going to put them in. Oops, here we go. Put them in here. So I want to copy this link. And then, oh wait, no. God damn it. Didn't work. Copy. There we go. All right, I'm going to switch over to this. Is it a YouTube? It's not actually, but we're going to read something together. We always love to read. I need to switch to the browser shut up. I can't even fucking talk. All right, let me check this chat. Rig rentals. Oops. Am I doing any more Nomad Cook events? Was thinking about going to the San Diego brunch. Probably not. Nah, I think not. They're not very legal, are they? So I try to, I did it once and it was nice to meet people and it was a fun event. But, do you like your hash sticky or clay-like? When I'm cooking with it, I like unpressed hash so I can, it's easier for me to weigh out and it dissolves really quickly into your fat, which is just keef. So, but I like all hash. I like it every single way. That was my first big move into weed, was into making edibles, was getting that big bag of cold water hash from up north, from Humboldt. And it really just changed the game for me because people knew they could trust my potency because I could keep it consistent with hash. I also didn't know what decarboxylation was. I just figured it out fucking around making caramel. And then I was like, oh, if I heat it up a little bit beforehand, before I make the caramel, and then whisk it into the cream, people get more high. And that's because a good amount will decarb while you're making caramel because caramel gets so hot. But if you want a full decarb, if you want to get a full decarb, you have to do it a little bit beforehand. Can you make hash purple? So the purple is coming from anthocyanin. And I've seen the Dank Duchess. She's had some pink purple hash before. I've definitely seen it. So it depends on, burner purple sand. Yeah. So it depends. So anthocyanin is more prevalent in certain strains and it's really brought out by cold weather. So it's not if you grow, Granddaddy Perp or something like that, you're going to definitely have that expression, right? That the expression of anthocyanin coming out. And I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I'm trying my best. And so it's about that cold weather shock. So you'll see it more up north. But yeah, I've seen makers use fresh frozen, cured then frozen, cured not frozen. I've seen new extraction methods that use static electricity and liquid oxygen. Wow. Have you had any experience with these? Nope. Static electricity? Nope. Liquid oxygen? Nope. I have no experience with that. I know that they will use time, letting input just sit in the solvent and it'll start to separate. I know they use extreme temperatures like winterization, which is where they make it really, really fucking cold and then it'll separate into layers and they can, separate those layers. They have so many machines and this is really, I'm growing a Jealousy F3 that had beautiful purple stripes that enhance with an ice dunk for feeding. See, there you go. These cultivators, the cultivators and the concentrate makers, this is their candy land. As much as I get excited about developing new recipes and coming up with new ideas for recipes. Hi, Natalie. Welcome to the live stream. These are they're science nerds and they're cannabis nerds, and then the cultivators are sometimes they're also the hash makers, and or sometimes they're different people. But there's so much that can be done, and we're just kind of scratching the surface because it's not totally legal. So all of these people have been operating under the radar, right? And now they can kind of come out from behind the curtain and really, really use the full scientific community as it becomes more and more legal. And we can see what kind of products are happening. Obviously, there's like nanotechnology and rapid uptake, like our rapid onset. And listen, I've tried them. Do I notice a difference? Personally, no. But I know that people swear by that stuff. So blessed be the hash makers. That's right. They've come a long way. They've definitely come a long way. So, because that was really dangerous too, right? To have hash, because the consequences, and in states that are not legal, you know, the consequences are heavier for concentrates. Heavier consequences for concentrates. Anyway, so it just was, and it always like seems so much more scary, right, than flour. But in reality, all you're doing is just taking out the plant matter from the equation, you know, like the leaf itself, like the actual plant itself, and you're just trying to get to those trichomes and get to that resin, so that, because that's what gets us high. And the trichomes are there to protect the flowers. And then we do all sorts of things to the plants to make them bigger. And that's where those cultivators, they say, I'm not growing a plant, I'm here growing trichomes. And so the concentrate makers are then using different techniques and, you know, processes that are used in labs for all sorts of things to make these concentrates to wash off those trichomes and that resin. So let's read about it. What makes a washer, my friends? Perhaps the biggest challenge of solventless extraction is finding strains that wash well. And by wash well, we mean cultivars that yield well for solventless extraction methods, like bubble hash. If you are not familiar with the term solventless, review this article first. I think we all know what solventless means. So we're not using a solvent. What is a solvent? Ethanol, butane, what else can be? CO2 is a solvent. I guess this liquid oxygen, who knew? All right, so what makes a hasher? This is pretty small. In order to, testing my eyesight, in order to properly answer the question, we must first define some terminology. When referencing a washer, we are referring to a cultivar. I need to zoom in here. There we go. Come on, Grandma. God damn it. Why did it do that? Let me zoom in. Cultivar capable of producing a viable yield of trichomes from a starting material to properly dried ice water hash or hash rosin. Okay, so they want a high yield, right? That's what we're looking for, high yield. Water is a solvent. Rig rentals, okay, it's debatable, right? I agree with you, but we consider it's water is the universal solvent. So anyway, but in this community, we consider it solventless, okay? Yeah, exactly, Jaden. It's technically a solvent, but we dry it to perfect humidity, so we don't define it as a solvent in this case. You know, and I think sometimes the kind of hoopla over solvents, like people being like, it leaves behind residual whatever. I remember in the industry, this one edible maker was trying to claim that using CO2 leaves behind like carbon or something like that. And I was like, you guys need to either show the science or not make these claims. So one happy mama, yo, hubby and I made the salted caramels in the cookbook. So yummy. Oh my God, I want to see them. Will you post a photo to the group chat in the club, please? Please, one happy mama. I want to see all your photos from the cookbook. You have no idea how happy it makes me that you are all cooking the book. Jaden, it's like if you said the plant material is the solvent for the hash and bongs, silly goose. I don't know if I get that analogy. Hi, Vice Master. How's it going? This is that XJ13 from THC Design. I'm really enjoying it. Okay, so let me keep reading this. we know what rosin is, but let's read it anyway. Rosin is a form of cannabis concentrate produced without using any chemical solvents, but instead utilizing heat and pressure to extrude the oils from within the trichome glands or heads, the crystals that sparkle back at you. Okay, this is what's known as solventless process. Got it. Bud is oil soluble and not water soluble. So technically water isn't a solvent, right? Basically the water is being used. You can do the same process without using water. Just make it really, 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 really cold, right? And then we did this on the show. We took a coffee tin, and then we turned it into a keef shaker. And if you put dry ice in there, all you're doing with cold water hash is you're making those trichomes really, really cold, and then you're using agitation, stirring it to break them off. And the ice helps in that process, right? They're pushing up against the ice and they're breaking off. And you want to be careful doing that. And that's the real art of it, right? How much ice to use, how to stir, when to know when it's done, because you don't want to break off a lot of plant material in the process too. You're really just going with heads only. Heads only. So a washer is a cultivar that when agitated in a cold water bath, like we just talked about, produces 4% or greater yield from fresh frozen material or 12% from dry material after pressing into rosin. Wow. Fresh frozen material contains about 75% to 80% water weight when frozen immediately after harvesting. Breaking even generally occurs around 3%, depending on your specific market, and anything over 4% total yield, right? This is a business. Enjoying some now you also do multiple rinses, right? Oh, one happy mama. We made those on our date night last week and forgot to tell you live. That's funny. Well, snap. Oh, you ate them all. I love it. That's awesome. Does pH matter in any part of the extraction or cooking process? I haven't noticed any kind of pH. I put cannabis into all sorts of things, and it doesn't do anything to the THC. Heat does, and exposure to oxygen and light, but I have not seen anything with acid. I guess we can look that up. Does the pH of water impact cold water hash extraction? Because you can get different pH water. All right, so I guess it does according to AI, Google. Let's see what this links to. We're going to look at this and let's do this. Oh man, this is long. I just want to look up pH. Oh, fuck off with your goddamn shit. Pharmaceutical. Well, where's the pH in this article, you motherfuckers? Ice water hash guide. Why is my water purple with anthocyanins when washing? Press Club. There's so many people that are who are experts in this, right? Look at that. You wanted to know about pink purple hash. There you go. Anthocyanins. So Vivian Shute, cool, cannabis enthusiast and student of the art of solventless extraction. Very cool. Cannabis material that's properly washed for bubble hash often imparts a cloudy appearance in wash due to thousands of trichome heads releasing into the ice water. It's not preferable to clog the sieve, which is why typically whole flower is used but into a bag to hold back most of the buds. Jaden, you're going to have to explain what you're saying a little bit more with that statement. I'm not sure. Cool. Thank you. I ask everyone this question. Okay, well, I'm not everyone, but we're going to look into it. I think it does. I'm not a hash maker, but I'm going to guess. Anthocyanins manifest as different colors depending on the pH of their environment. Okay, they appear reddish in acidic environments and purplish in neutral ones. They are also thought to contribute to the therapeutic effects of cannabis. I don't know about that. Anthocyanins are water-soluble, located mostly in the epidermal layer of plants. They're sometimes even present in high concentration within trichome stalks. That's interesting. So they're not found in high concentrations within the trichome heads, which are the fruits of the cannabis plant that hash makers primarily target. Anthocyanins are unstable, highly susceptible to degradation. Temperatures over 75 degrees Fahrenheit will cause significant degradation, which provides another reason to maintain temperature control on the grow places and dry curing environments. Reading the colors in hash water, I just want to, does the color of hash water impact the color of the hash? Let me look at pH. Can we find it here? Okay, pH levels of the environment, right? And this is why you can't trust AI, right? So you can tell, does the impact hydrophilic? That's cool to know. What? Where are you seeing hydrophilic? I don't see it here. I love learning with y'all. Thanks, Harry. I know. I'm staying curious. You might use like a hash bag to hold all the buds when you're not pushing around plant material, which is why it might seem better to grind the bud at first to loosen all the trichomes. Pushing around. Well, why do you say it might seem better? Is it not better? Harry Lee, don't trust the machines, they quote from John Connor. Don't trust the machines. Who's the machines? Is this the machines? Anyway, we're going to have to keep looking. Oh, you mean AI. I know, right? Stupid. Some extractors suggest using distilled or deionized water. I mean, there are so many. You guys, this is really deep. Does the pH matter? Some people say it does. Anthocyanins are water soluble. Yes. It literally, like, in order to know if the pH of the water matters, I'm going to ask the Duchess, but in order to know, it would, we'd have to do testing. You'd have to take the same strain and hi, Duchess. How are you? Quick question. Or maybe not quick. Does the pH of water impact the final hash? Do you use specific water? I'll let you know. Chemical bonds for the win. Okay, let's keep reading. A washer is a cultivar that when agitated... Okay, we already read this. What makes a washer? Let's discuss a few variables that affect valuable yields and what to look for, starting with these three categories. 1, trichome density, the number of trichomes, okay? Structure, the shape of the trichomes. They come in all different shapes, as well as the bud structure itself. Like, is it fluffy and loose, or is it really compact and tight? I'm assuming that will have different results for washing hash. Tactile feel, the consistency of the trichomes when rubbed on the plant between day 45 and harvest time. That seems really, who knows? So the anthocyanins and colors in cannabis are in the water, which is why they'll dye the water, but the heads and all cannabinoids are oil and fat soluble. Right. The first thing I look for when hunting washers is trichome density. Duh. This refers to the sheer amount of trichome stalks and heads within a given range of view. Often I explain this as how thick is the trichome forest, right? Are there noticeable areas of chlorophyll and not or are there noticeable areas of chlorophyll not containing trichomes, or is the view coated in trichs? The wording in this is a little. I want to see trichomes covering all of the bracts and even the close sugar leaves, right? The sugar leaves are around the flower to also protect the sex organs of the plant. And they get covered in trichomes, not totally covered, but they can have trichomes on them, which is why we use them for trim. And next, I look at the structure of the trichome. I can't fucking see the rest of this, buddy. Okay, now if you have a dense trichome growth, the perfect trichome structure for washing with a weak neck trait and large bulbous thin waxy cuticle head, and you feel gritty sand-like consistency, you have found a washer. Congrats. So if you got it. Now if you have dense, perfect, got it. This gritty feeling can often be seen with the naked eye and felt, showing off the stability of the glands. Some notable washers would include varieties such as GMO, otherwise known as garlic cookies or garlic mushroom onions. Papaya is another known washer that originated in Amsterdam from Nirvana seeds. I personally selected a phenotype of washing back in 2012, and since then the strain papaya has blown up in the breeders' circles and the hashmakers' arsenals. Sour diesel, chem, and chem crosses will often result in proper yields, light colors, loud terps, esters, and flavonoids. One of my favorites is the Chem Dog bred by Top Dog Seeds, which has one of the thinnest waxy cuticles of any variety I've encountered. It has very stable, hardened off heads, resulting in amazing yields from the wash and unbelievable yields from wash to pressing the rosin. We saw upwards of 95% from freeze-dried hash to rosin and product running that particular phenotype that was sourced by the Dub in Colorado. Chromes the White has always been a winner in our group, and a close friend, Riley of Down with Dirt Seeds, has bred some amazing crosses with the variety, winning us a plethora of cannabis cups. Very cool. And of course, the CG4 and Gorilla Glue number 4 along with the crosses will always throw down in the wash as well as the rosin. In summary, a washer would be a cannabis variety or specific phenotype expression that produces enough trichome heads to justify the process, right? We talked about labor. So it's a lot of labor in this process. So you want to make sure you're going to get enough juice with the squeeze, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? That's what we're talking about. We went over 3 main characteristics to look for when hunting washers, trichome dense varieties, finding the cultivar with a large bulbous head and the weak neck trait. Looser bud structure is also important for surface area exposing those glands. And discerning the gritty tactile consistency between your fingertips, a major key. So that is probably something that they really teach you, when you're doing this. It's something you would go and you study under someone, you learn. I've also included a nice list of varieties you can start with to aid in your washing success. And of course, it's all about the terpenes. So when selecting for washers, terps come first. Now go find your favorite flavor that carries these winning characteristics. Okay, did you love that? We loved it. How are we doing? We're good. Everyone's good. Everyone having a good time. All right, so we've got these 3. I would add this incredibly important variable. So they're saying we need to add something here. Light conditions, indoor versus outdoor. Sun-grown flowers are known to have higher terpene content. Are they? For me, the standout quote in the article is, now if you have dense trichome growth, a perfect trichome structure for washing with a weak neck trait and large bulbous thin waxy cuticle head, and you feel gritty sand-like consistency, you've found a washer. Cool. That is a loaded paragraph to deconstruct. Weak neck trait refers to trichomes that have a small connection between the stalk and the head, okay? That's exactly what it sounds like. I don't know why he's making... Bulbous, thin, waxy cuticle. This describes the shell of the trichome head. You want a thin head to decrease overall wax content in the hash. This is particularly important when making rosin carts. Got it. Gritty, sand-like consistency. I completely agree with this sentiment. Sand-like hash is so much easier to work with than greasy feeling hash. Greasy hash tends to smear and clog your extraction bags, unlike sandy hash, which comes off clean, which is what I told you. That's what I prefer to cook with. It's just easier to work with. This is equivalent of fermenting your own alcohol wine, right? I think it's equivalent to... what is this equivalent to? This is equivalent to making your own olive oil, is what I would say. This is equivalent to, it's a form of extraction, you know, that's what it is. So more like making clay out of soil in your backyard, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I mean, that's a good analogy too, right? Because you have to pick the right kind of soil. You have to pick the right kind of clay. And then you can test it, and different clay does different things. It's a real art. Making your own hash is an act of love. It's going anytime how I think of it. And I say in the cookbook, I talk about concentrates like you would think of sugar or milling your own flour, right? Let's use flour for an example. So depending on the flour, the grain that you use, depending on how fine you mill it, and then if you leave all of the husk, so you're separating out that final product that you want to cook with, that comes from, anyway. Microns are a whole other conversation, right? So we could really get into it here. Which strains work well for solventless extraction? There are phenotype-specific differences that will influence yield, but overall, there are certain trends when it comes to washing. Interesting. This is not an extensive list, but a good starting point. So GMO, we see it. Face Off OG, Papaya, ChemDog. Wow, this is a great resource. So if you want strains that typically don't wash, that's good to know. Girl Scout Cookies, Blue Dream. Interesting. I've definitely gotten some Blue Dream hash. Many old school Kush varieties. The jar test. Oh, cool. So the jar test is a great way to approximate solventless yield without having to wash a large amount of material. Fortunately, decarboxylation requires little to no bacteria. I want to use bacteria to decarb my THCA. He's talking about using the heat. Are you trying to use heat from the bacteria like you would use a compost? Is that what you mean? You could put your weed into the stasher like I teach you with the parchment paper, right? And then put that into your compost pile. And then I guess technically bacteria would be helping decarb if your compost is healthy. All right, the jar test is simply put 40 grams fresh frozen material in a large jar with ice and water. Over time, you'll get a feel for what a good yield looks like. But for starters, should have a minimum of a heaping teaspoon's worth of trichomes at the bottom of the jar. Below are some mids that had pretty awful yields. Cool. Very cool. I could do that. I have enough flour right now that I need to get through. Understanding oxidization in rosin production. Oh, wait. Go back, motherfucker. What the fuck? It's going too fast. Related posts. Well, I can't even click on them, sir, because you're going rosin-infused chocolate recipe by Stefano. Plant extracts with Terp Wizard. All right. I was going to put this in the cookbook, an ultrasonic, right? Using spent rosin pucks, we infused MCT oil with ultrasonic extraction. So I was going to, for alcohol especially, ultrasonic, that's just basically a jewelry cleaner. And so that ultrasonic, we're talking about agitation to break off the trichomes. You can do that using a jewelry cleaner, and then I would put like a tincture, the alcohol, to get a better yield, better extraction for your ethanol extractions without heating it up, which will give you a greener tincture. You could get one of these jewelry cleaners or these ultrasonic cleaners, and you just put it in there. That's what the labs do. Okay, let's do some lab testing on that for the club. Understanding oxidization in rosin production. When it comes to producing high quality rosin, understanding oxidization is crucial. You may already be familiar with the grape analogy we use to explain the benefits of fresh frozen products. Now I'll explore the apple analogy, a simple yet effective way to visualize how oxidation can degrade your rosin during pressing. Think about cutting an apple. When the protective outer layer is sliced, the interior is exposed to air, causing it to brown within minutes. The browning is a visual example of oxidation, reaction that occurs when molecules interact with oxygen. The same principle applies when we press hash into rosin. Trichome heads, the tiny resin glands that contain cannabinoids and terpenes, are naturally protected by a waxy outer shell. During pressing, the shell bursts, exposing the cannabinoids inside to air. Without this barrier, the valuable compounds in your rosin become vulnerable to oxidation. To make matters worse, pressing rosin typically involves heat. Heat accelerates the oxidation process, leading to what we call hot side oxidation. This can degrade the quality of your rosin, affecting both its flavor and potency. Okay, so if you're going to vacuum seal your rosin when you're decarbing any concentrate, okay, because you want to use a sous vide to decarb, which is the gentlest way to decarb your concentrates. You need to burp the bag, okay? It's a lot of CO2 that is coming off of the concentrates, right? Because that process is being concentrated. And so your bag is going to fill up with CO2. Same thing will happen if you do the stasher bag in the oven. Basically, yeah, that's my word to you guys. And you're looking, how do you know when a rosin is done or a concentrate is done decarbing if you're having to decarb your concentrate? You're watching the bubbles. It's going to take longer at a lower temperature. You'll preserve more of those terpenes. But you just got to watch the bubbles, and I do it at lower temperatures. Like if you're doing it in the water, it's going to take the same amount of time that it to decarb flours and using sous vide, which is, I have to look at my chart. What does my chart say? An hour and 2 hours total if you want like a full decarb, and it depends on the amount that you're decarbing at once. But it's better. So instead of being like, oh, I know it takes 2 hours, watch those bubbles. As soon as the bubbles stop, you're good to go. And you can cook with that concentrate. And they're so easy to cook with because you're taking out that whole process of having to infuse whatever it is you're using as a carrier to put it into your recipe. So when I look at recipes, I'm looking for that carrier, right? So like the Cool Whip, I've got milk. I could have put it in the milk. I used a stoned sugar here. I don't know why I didn't do the mocha milk. Probably because it's a Cool Whip. So I didn't want to milk. I find infused milk really takes on a lot of that cannabis flavor because it has so much water in it. And the stoned sugar for something like a Cool Whip that doesn't have any other kind of distraction for your palate, it's better to use something like a stoned sugar, which uses a tincture. Smoke that hash fast. Yes. I know people always ask me, like, how do I store my hash? How do I store it? Keep it cool, keep it cold, keep it out of oxygen, vacuum sealed, and use it quickly. It's going, even if you do all of the right things, it will get old. So use it or lose it is what I say. Sorry, Jaden. The apple analogy. Okay, we learned about this. This is cool. All right, let's keep on keeping on. All right. So trichome heads matter. We learned about cuticles. We learned about resin. We learned about solventless, solvents, which strains wash better. We also have, actually I have another one that we can look at that tells us. Are you guys interested in this topic? I hope so, because that's what we're learning about today. Seems like it. I'm going to copy this and see if it goes here. I'm hungry too. I'm always hungry. I got crumble cookies last time and it was so good. Oh my God. My friend Rocio's now serving. Okay, so let's look at this extraction. Why isn't it coming up? Hello. Let's go. It doesn't want to pull up for me. There we go. Oh, wow. Look at that purple, you guys. As is natural and known to all good master chocolatier, the quality of the raw material used has a strong influence on the quality of the final product. Therefore, we will talk about a set of cannabis varieties known in the cannabis scene for being extremely suitable for the production of extractions. Motherfucker, don't refresh. Now, as we all know, there are numerous, and people are so funny with their writing. There are numerous and often enormous differences between each variety of cannabis. In the first edition of this magazine, Canna Reporter, okay, we address this topic in depth. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Anyone else here took general chemistry in community college? All this science is stressing me out. You're stressed out? Petra ate pizza and an almond cake. I'm very jealous. Should I get pizza? Oh, that was good. Crack my back. I'm trying not to eat pizza right now. I'm trying to be like better about not eating stuff all the time. It's hard. I just want to eat things and I don't want to exercise. It really takes a lot out, like, to get me to do it, but I do it. I did it yesterday. I did a HIIT workout and I'm getting better. It's not so hard. You just ate pozole and flan. God damn it. Now I'm hungry. All right. I might have to order some food for myself every Wednesday. Sushi? You know what, Kathy? I need a break from sushi because of my sushi feast the other day. That was like 25 courses altogether of sushi. And I think my body needs a little time to recover from that. I'll think of something. Now, as we all know, there are numerous blah, 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 blah. We were talking about there are several extraction methods with water and ice, dry filtration, dry sift, or solvent-based techniques such as BHO. Got it. Okay. So dry sift and hash use, okay, let's look at this, right? And it is among these other differences with which the cannabis grower is usually less familiar. That one very important one emerges in the context of cannabis extraction, the size of the trichome head. Trichomes are the resin glands on the surface, blah, blah, blah. That's right. As we mentioned, the size of trichome heads on the cannabis plant can vary greatly. The ideal size for making cannabis extractions, such as hashish and concentrates, is generally considered to be in the range of 70 to 140 micrometers or up to 160 micrometers in very specific cases. When you already know well the variety of cannabis you are working with and its respective ideal cultivation method. The size range mentioned refers to the diameter of the trichome head, which as we already know is part of the redundant. There are several extraction methods, which we already went over. Now, in the case of ice and dry sift, we can use different mesh thickness to obtain different qualities of final product. For a thinner mesh thickness with 25 micrometers, we obtain a low quality product as there's not enough space for the passage of whole trichome heads. With a mesh of 45 micrometers, we can already expect something interesting or of second quality. But not only the size of the trichome head is important, the type and quantity of terpenes plays a fundamental role in the organoleptic qualities of the final product. They're like fucking throwing a big word, my friends. Let's see. I actually don't even know. Let me read you the definition of that word because that's funny. Acting on or involving the use of the sense organs. Okay. Oh, man. At 73 micrometers, we obtain first quality, but it is at 90 micrometers, extraordinary quality, and on 20 micrometers, high quality that we should focus our attention. Because at 160 micrometers in most cases, we again obtain low quality material. And above 160 micrometers, the quality is extremely low depending on the amount of contaminants and vegetable matter. So if you go too small, you're not going to get any trichome heads, right? If you go too big, you're going to get too much plant matter. So you've got this real kind of, anyway. Find a balance between your metabolism and caloric intake. I really hope you're fucking joking, man. Rig rentals. Just don't tell women or anyone, really, what to do. And B, I grew up, you don't know this, but I come from a family of athletes, and my sister studied nutrition. I've grown up with every fucking diet. I know how to count calories. I know how to exercise. I know how to do it all. I also I cook for a living, so I like to eat shit. And it's a battle. It's like, I think people oversimplify it, right? And I used to do the same, especially when I was younger. It's a lot easier to figure out your metabolism when you're young and you don't have like shit changing in your body. But I'm 38. All right. So the workouts I used to do, one, I don't want to be thin like I was. I want to be strong. It's just hard to really, I don't go to classes anymore. COVID freaked me the fuck out. I don't want to sweat in a room full of people and like breathe a bunch of like I used to do hot yoga like 4-5 times a week, hour and 15. But I don't want to do that anymore. I also, no offense to the yoga community, but I find that a lot of anti-vax rhetoric is prevalent in yoga studios. And, I don't want to be around that. I don't want to get whooping cough or any bullshit like that. No, thank you. So, I've just been trying to work out in my tiny little place. I've got YouTube. Like if you were to look at my YouTube, wow. Hi everyone. Hi Ricky. Hi Dan. Hi Ramona. Grazie. If you look at my YouTube, it's a lot of HIIT workouts. I take 8-pound weights. I do way too many squats. I fucking hate squats. El Fraggle Rock Pothead, your dad was a pro football player, right? Yes, my dad was a free safety in the CFL for 10 years. So I grew up like exercise and movement have been really like a big part of my life, and it's just hard. It's just you get older and you're also just kind of like at times I'm like, who am I doing this for anymore? And really who I'm doing it for now is for my older self, because you want to have muscle around your bones. It's better. It's protects your bones better. It's denser than fat, right? That's why they say muscle weighs more than fat. That's why you shouldn't weigh yourself. But the way that I've found to build muscle is really lifting weights. And I should go to a gym. I just don't want to go. I feel so awkward at a gym. And I'm not like, I don't got space to like have my own little gym here, but I'd love to have like a real weight setup. I've just got to be careful with my knees. Anyway, this is such a sidetrack. Ricky, there is such a thing as too many squats when your knee, like the inside of my knee got a little puffy, like a little water kind of pocket fluid formed around the side. And so I look like I had knock knees because, and I was like, oh shit, that's not good. So I started putting my legs up on the wall. So the fluid, because you have to think like our body, we're trying to get circulation. That's why when you have injuries on your feet, you can have trouble like with healing, takes longer because it's further away from your heart. So you just want to help your body and like put your legs up and do different things. I think we don't think about it a lot. That's why I like yoga, because they say it's like awkward positions. And it's really these positions we don't hold very often in our body, because usually we're kind of sit and I'm sitting here. And so I'm folding forward, right? And yoga will have you like going back and doing this and holding it and then having to breathe through it. And it really helps me get through a lot of things in life. So I've just been doing that on YouTube. And my problem is I just want to eat a pint of ice cream and eat crumble cookies and then the whole cookbook, I recipe tested that cookbook, right? And that's a lot of fried food. So I don't want to order crumble today. Ocha, no mood. You do what makes you happy. All that matters. Thanks for 20. We love it. Thank you. Yeah, I've just been kind of like, doing my thing. I'm getting into it though. It makes me feel like doing the lifting weights, light weights, lots of squats, and then alternating that with yoga. And then I walk Bonbon all the time. Hello, same with Diet Dr. Pepper. Okay, Brian, Diet Dr. Pepper is technically diet. So I know, Ricky, did you watch that live stream? I literally ate crumble cookies on the live stream. Should have been there. They were pretty good. The dulce de leche was so fucking sweet. I couldn't do it. If it wasn't for yoga and stretching, I would be forced to take painkillers instead of just cannabis. Yeah, yoga. When I first started doing yoga, this was at least 10 years ago, if not more. And it just, it strengthened my upper body and my arms. And when I learned how to do the push-up correctly, like started with putting my knees down so that I could, because I wasn't strong enough to do it that way. But I think you kind of get this ego when you first start. You have a kind of somewhat of an ego. You think you want to perform for people, and so you're doing it incorrectly, and you can really hurt yourself. But once I got that and built up strength in my upper body, it really helped with my posture. And so I'm just trying to get back into everything. Gyms are really some of the most welcoming places. I think it really depends on your gender. So I'm just going to say that. Okay? I don't want to be welcomed. I just want to be left alone. I just want to do my little exercises. And I think I'm super private. I like to be, even though I'm public. I want to sweat and do all of that stuff by myself these days. Okay, so we're going to keep going because, all right, I feel like we've covered this topic. I don't know how you feel, but let's get more into the medicinal benefits of it, okay? Because we're going to switch gears into medicinal cannabis and not, maybe it does this. We're going to look at some studies. We're going to look at some studies. All right. So we covered the craft. Now we're going to talk about the care, because cannabis didn't just become popular because we all like to get high. A big part of how we legalized this plant in so many states is because we started medicinally. It got has gotten a lot of people through some hard times. I know it helps me in a lot of ways. I know it helps many members of the club in a lot of ways. It helped the LGBTQ plus community during the AIDS epidemic. That was really a big movement for helping legalization in California. So it's really, this plant has a long history of being used medicinally. I talk about this in my cookbook as well. We talk a little bit about the history of cannabis, and it was used for all sorts of things. It was originally from the Altai Mountains in Asia. And, topically, internally, we've been using it for a long time. Ochinomu. I'm actually one of the next recipes I'm going to make from the cookbook to make a little reel out of is the Savior Salve, because I want to give it to some of my friends. I got some of the little jars to put it in, and my one friend swears by it. She works a lot with her hands, and there's arnica in it, which is another plant that is really good for pain relief. And there's a lot of THC. And I like that name of that recipe, Savior Salve. And you can play with the recipes if you find like, oh, I want it a little firmer. That's the nice thing. But the actual process, make sure you follow that process, because it uses shea butter. And shea butter is kind of like chocolate in that it has temperatures it likes to be melted at. And set in a certain way. If you don't want your salve to be grainy, follow my technique. All right. So for a long time, people had to whisper about using cannabis for pain or anxiety or appetite, right? Now we've got science. We've got studies. We're getting more studies. Even the FDA has approved meds. Let's break it down with the top 5 medicinal uses of cannabis. And I'm going to start looking at some things to help prove our point. Chronic pain relief is the number one reason people turn to medical cannabis. So give me a heart if you use cannabis for pain relief. I want to see. And we can even create a poll if we want. It's especially effective for inflammatory pain, nerve pain, and conditions like arthritis. So not only can you be using cannabis topically for arthritis, and I know that there are a lot of people who don't want to get high from cannabis. They want the medicinal benefits without getting stoned, right? Topicals are great for that. And we have receptors, cannabinoid receptors in our skin, lots of hearts for pain. And we have them in our skin. We have them all over our bodies, in our bones. And so that means we can receive cannabinoids all over our bodies, which is great. So let's look at this study. Copy this. Wait, Italy declares CBD oil a narcotic. What? Okay. This is a real deal study. The current state of evidence and recommendations for research. How old is this? January 2017. This is pretty fucking old, but let's see what it has to say. You love this topical content. Thanks, Ramona. This was come up with from people in our club, the Edibles Club. I smoke to cope with life. I think it's a pretty okay way to cope with life, right? There are other ways that are not so nice for everybody else involved. If you don't like the smell of weed, sorry, but I really enjoy cannabis. All right, so 1996, that Arizona, California first passed medicinal cannabis legislation. Chronic pain. Relief from chronic pain is by far the most common condition cited by patients for medical use of cannabis. Reported that 94% of Colorado medical card holders indicated severe pain as a medical condition. Likewise, reported that 87% of participants in their study were seeking cannabis for pain relief. In addition, there is evidence that some individuals are replacing the use of conventional pain medication, opiates, with cannabis. For example, let's watch a little video on this because this is all fine and dandy, but I'm also getting hungry. Got to figure out what I'm going to eat. Gotta figure out what I'm gonna eat. All right, this is all interesting, but I'm kind of tired of reading. Hope you don't mind. Oh, let me put
What about chronic musculoskeletal pain? So not necessarily cancer related, right? But non-cancer related chronic musculoskeletal pain. So a lot of the osteoarthritis, chronic lower back pain, different kind of pains like that.
Yeah, so I don't know that has been rigorously studied. It may be, and I'm just not aware of it. But I think that's one of the very common uses. Again, for folks who are using cannabis that they might buy from a local dispensary, and just kind of figuring out what helps with their chronic pain.
Yeah, I was looking at a review actually by an orthopedic.
Oh my God!
Group,
thank you, Eddie
that
Moretti.
Was looking at it for the context of just general musculoskeletal
Plus
pain.
the Edibles Club.
And based off, I think they did a meta-analysis, and based off of the meta-analysis, there was, I think, a moderate evidence for efficacy in the context of chronic musculoskeletal pain.
And they're also...
Wait 1 second. I want to read these comments. 1 second. We got some good comments here. I smoked to cope with life. Read that already, Harry. I was able to eliminate opioids with cannabis, mainly edibles, back pain. Wow, that's really cool, Pete. Really cool. Hi, gang. Hi, Eddie. Thank you. Liberty Genetics. 1 year, my sister made a basic cannabis topical and brought it to our family reunion, gave it to all the old ladies. Half an hour later, they were all raving about how they could move their fingers. That's what I'm talking about. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. My friend who was talking about not only works with her hands, but she's older and she can't move her fingers because of arthritis. And so it is really, and now you have to be careful when I tell people, just make sure if you're giving it to your grandma or you're giving it to someone, you know, who doesn't do edibles or want to get stoned, just let them know if they're going to put it on their hands and then they go to eat a sandwich or something like that. Cross-contamination is a real thing, right? So you just want them to be aware that if it gets in their mouth in any way, just be aware they can get high. So that's so funny. Yeah, Eddie wrote a really nice Amazon review. A lot of people did really great reviews for the cookbook. So thank you so much. I think this video is very interesting.
You know, in some of those studies have been the findings that there's a reduction in the use of prescription pain medications when people do that, and that may be an important thing during a time when we're worried about opioids.
Right.
And, you know, some of the other treatments for chronic pain, like nonsteroidals, are not exactly benign.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, and I was about to get to that, but since you beat me to it, there's a meta-analysis of a bunch of these observational studies, right? Which means they weren't clinical studies. They're just kind of tracking how people were responding to the medical cannabis that they were already smoking. And they found that 39% of the participants reported opioid sensation and 85% reported opioid use reduction. That's pretty striking.
Pretty striking.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
That
think
is striking.
Maybe you're about to go there. You know, this touches on some early enthusiasm that cannabinoids might decrease opioid use by having a direct analgesic effect,
Right.
but B might also reduce opioid craving for people who've developed a dependency,
Right.
and C might have a role in changing the tragic course of the opioid overdose death epidemic.
Yeah.
That now has been called into question by other analyses, so it may or may not be something that actually happens, but.
To be able to reverse the opioid crisis, or to actually just be able to be a functional substitute for opioids?
I think the latter in a given patient, and the former if it turns out to actually have an effect in large populations.
So what's your thought? Do you think that cannabis has an opioid sparing effect or not?
In my experience, it has not, but I should say that my experience typically is in taking care of people with complicated cancer pain,
Right.
who, you know, where we're arriving at cannabinoids as an adjunct, as an add-on, and
All right. So I just want to read these really quickly. C. Young, I've had chronic pain for decades. Without weed, I would have gone nuts. My doctor would never give me anything strong until I finally got x-rays that showed how seriously fucked my back was. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Omar, I'm married to the Edibles Club. That's the only way. That's it. Just the Edibles Club. Rig Rentals, the endocannabinoid system rules. Yes, it does. C. Young, then she was like, here, take the things. I don't want them. Just get me fucking surgery already. Right. You're like, too late, right? Glad you found relief. Totally. Which I had, and it's better, but I still use daily. Yeah. Docs, they know, listen, they've dedicated their lives to whatever it is that they're studying, right? And so they know what they know, and you have to go to different doctors, and I can't imagine. You know, I'm very, very lucky that I've been pretty okay with my health. But yeah. Backs are not fun. Whenever I see people go to a chiropractor, I'm always like, ooh. Cannabichem did a video with the scientist who discovered the ECS. Oh, really? That's really cool. We should watch that. We should watch it.
And again, these are often people who have really complicated pain problems that require, you know, really high doses of opioids, and cannabinoids may help, but in my experience, it's rarely led to a dramatic decrease in the need for opioids.
Right.
Right.
What's your thought, specifically since you were talking about cancer? What's your thought on the use of cannabis, either by itself or as an adjunctive therapy?
This is interesting.
For
I'm curious
cancer,
to see what he
cancer-related
says.
pain?
For cancer pain or to treat the cancer?
No, for cancer-related pain.
So, I've met
question.
patients because I've over the last 20 years both studied this fairly deeply and had a fair amount of opportunity to talk to community groups and public groups about this topic. Certainly, there are people who will tell you that their discovery of cannabinoids for their pain has led them to not require opioid analgesics. Again, that's not been my experience as a cancer pain doctor, but I respect and believe the stories that I've heard from individuals. So
Yeah. And just to plug this, there was an observational study out of Israel, 126 cancer patients prescribed cannabis over a 6-month period, and they found a 20% median reduction in average weekly and
Wow.
worst pain intensity. Again, observational studies, but it doesn't seem to translate to clinical
Observational
trials, right? So
studies.
I've looked at clinical trials looking at this sort of same thing, specifically in the context of cancer pain, and it just doesn't seem to pan out. Why do you think that is?
it may be very different patient groups.
Yeah.
That is, people who are well enough to answer.
Okay, you guys, I am gonna order some food because I'm hungry. Now comes the question: what do I eat this week for the Club Sesh?
Answer a survey, in a sort of a more anecdotal kind of study like the one from Israel.
Right.
Just may have different level of complexity to their pain problems than the kind of folks that actually get enrolled in a trial who are in a cancer center. And
Right. And we were talking about this before
Yeah.
we hit the record button on this thing, but it looks like these observational studies are looking at cancer patients that are just using medical cannabis, sort of smoking it, right? So they're using the whole flower. Whereas these
Right.
clinical trials, they're looking at cannabinoid compounds that a pharmaceutical company has
Right.
extracted THC and CBD from the flower and is just using
Tacos?
THC and CBD potentially. Do you think that there's something beyond just the THC and CBD in the flower that is contributing to the pain relief?
It's a really interesting and important question. I don't have an opinion about it, but I certainly have been. I've had conversations with people who passionately believe that the study of THC and CBD alone is a hopeless oversimplification. And that the terpenes and the other
Right.
agents
Right.
are.
You see
are
how he
crucial.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that.
What do you
answer.
think? Let me put you in a hypothetical situation.
Do you see how he answers that? He's like, we can't say, right? You can't say. And I know he has people who just go to him and are, sandwich and chips. I wonder if I could. People are saying tacos, but I feel like tacos are not really something that you get to go, but I'm gonna see what's available. I'm not going to do, I feel like I have to do kind of like, crunchy tacos. Sometimes I like those like crispy tacos. LA's got some good ass tacos, my friends. I just want to look at how this place is. I don't want this. Oh no, not AI. Burritos are substantive. I know, but you know what? I made burritos from scratch this weekend. I kind of feel like not only that they're extracting just THC and CBDs for these trials, they're synthetically making it for these trials, and that's the worst way to go. So they're making synthetic cannabinoids for the trials. They're not using just distillate or something like that. LA does have good ass tacos. Yes, they do. We do. I love LA. Let me see. I'm looking at photos of these tacos right now. See if I want to get them. Oh, scratchy back. I really just want crispy tacos. Crunchy, crispy. Not good for me tacos now.
Situation, it's probably not hypothetical because you've probably been in it, right? But for maybe some other practitioners out there, what do you think someone that's coming in saying, you know, I have all this pain, right?
Okay,
and
wait.
you're treating them with whatever.
Nerdy X90. Hi, how are you? Sup? Got some, sorry, I don't say that. That sounded really weird coming from me. Got some crypto chronic from Alien Labs. Nice. Got back from Austin. Nice. Has the best barbecue and tacos, hands down. Cali does it best. Nerdy. That's why they call it the best coast. Okay. Cinco de Mayo 3. The Revenge. Shout out to Randy Newman. Yes. I want LA tacos. Eugene tacos don't cut it. I'm sorry. LA tacos are the best. When you come to NYC, I can take you to the best empanadas, taco, and pizza spots. Dan, I'm going to level with you right now, Dan. I'll tell you a story. Let me tell you a story, okay? Fraggle Rock Pod. Randy Newman is prejudiced against short people. That is amazing. Okay. I want to see who has the best reviews. Like, obviously, Guisados has really, really good reviews, but I kind of don't want that style of taco right now. They're great. I get them all the time. I want crispy, crunchy tacos. Let me see what we got. Oh, they call it a gringo taco. Fuck yeah, I want a gringo taco. I'm a gringa. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? This looks great. Yup. Give me it. Hard shell, corn tortilla, shredded beef, cheese, onions, chipotle cream, lettuce, tomato. Yes, bitch. Let's go. Chips and salsa and guac on the side. I've got beans here. I'm not doing that. I'm not getting Coke, even though I want a Coke. Do I want churros? You know it. You know I do. Okay, add to order. But then I want more than one. Duh. Okay, now I want to try the chicken. Obviously. How many tacos do I need? 2 tacos, 1 beef, 1 chicken. We'll try both. We're going to try the chip salsa y guacamole. Okay? Y. You want me to get corn? Corn tortillas, wheat or corn? No, these are corn. These are corn. Although they're gringo tacos, so they really should be wheat if we're... Who says no to churros? Not this lady. Not this lady right here. And that's why we're not getting any Coca-Cola, because we're getting churros. Ooh, pinto bean sopes. Okay, I'm doing it. Bring me my food. No, why is it so expensive? What can I get rid of? Maybe I don't need the chips and the guac. I'm getting rid of it. It is expensive for chips and guac. We're just doing... Oh, wait, I didn't get nopales. Excuse me. No nopales. How much is it without the nopales? They try to slip in some nopales there. That's a little better. Hydrate, Vanessa. Good idea. I didn't know your book was on Amazon. I'm getting it. Oh, shit. Let me drop the book for you, my friends. I'm buying this. I kept the chips and the guac. I kept it. Yeah, you can order from Amazon if you like. You can get it wherever you want. Okay? I want you to just pre-order my book, please. Not pre-order. What am I talking about? You can get it today. Get it today. It'll show up tomorrow, and you can cook with me and make the salve And if you want more options, here's the full site. Please. I love it. I've been watching my Amazon. You know, I can see how my book is doing. Stuffed sopapillas. Ooh. I know, Ricky. I can't. It's too much sugar, okay? I'm trying not to. It's too much sugar. I don't need to drink it. At the very least, I don't drink my sugar. I drink water for the most part. Which I need to get another glass of. Ushinomu was plugging that pre-order for so long. Old habits and all. I know. You know which one I like the most? I actually like the tamarind. Tamarind. It's the best. Okay, so let's keep going with this video. It's interesting to
Whatever
me
sort
while
of
I
means
wait.
you have available to treat
for
them
my
for their
food.
pain. What do you think they should say?
Maybe I
if
should see
they're
if,
wondering about trying
DoorDash will
cannabis, right? Especially in a state like
Sponsor
California,
the
where
live
they
stream.
can just
And
go to
every
the
week
store and
I
get
order something.
I think it's often a very reasonable thing to consider, particularly for people who have an intractable pain problem that may be having a profound effect on their life functioning or their mood, or maybe the treatment for which may be conferring other serious risks, like
Right.
somebody who needs 3,800 milligrams a day of ibuprofen and has already had an ulcer and has
Yeah, that's a great
compromised
point.
renal function.
Right.
And or people
Compromised
who,
renal
who maybe
function.
are using opioids
Not
in
that.
a aberrant way, and who who've maybe run into some trouble with respiratory depression or an inadvertent overdose, et cetera. A lot of those people are looking for alternatives.
Right.
And I think what we can say about cannabinoids is that,
Okay.
and you've heard this 1,000 times, of course.
Look it. He says it cannabinoids. Do you say cannabinoids or cannabinoids? Right? As long as you can say cannabinoid and not cannabana baby booty bot, we're good.
Of course, nobody ever died of a cannabis overdose, right?
Right.
Cannabinoids don't depress your breathing centers. They don't rot your stomach lining and give you an ulcer. They don't kill your kidneys. They don't do a lot of things that our conventional treatments can do.
Right.
It's not by any means to say that cannabinoids don't have an abuse potential, and some people, of course, feel really awful on them.
Right.
But as a matter of safety, they're
At
probably
least he's
pretty
not
safe.
saying
Right.
marijuana
So,
is right.
and we'll talk about the detrimental effects a little bit
Yeah.
later. But I mean, I love that approach, right? From like a practitioner standpoint, you're actually thinking through, okay, well, what does this person has, and what sort of pain relieving medications are they on now that could be actually detrimental to them, and then you're counter weighing that against cannabis, right? And I just feel like practitioners nowadays aren't really doing that, right? It's either sort of black or white for them. It's just like, no, you shouldn't try it at all, or go for it, but don't ask me how you should go about doing it.
And I think you
Right.
just put your finger
They don't
on a
wanna give
critical
any
issue,
advice.
how you should go about doing it one, which
Right.
is, at present in this country, there are a few legal, that is, FDA approved, a doctor can prescribe them cannabinoid compounds. The ones that most people have heard of probably, are Marinol, which was approved in the 80s for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, and a couple of compounds that are closely related to it, again, that are approved for chemotherapy, nausea, and vomiting. And then there's the pure CBD compound, which is only, although it's available and can be prescribed, it can only be used for children with particular devastating childhood epilepsies.
Right.
Right. And unlike many other drugs where a doctor can prescribe them
Refer-
off label,
no,
you
you're
can't
funny.
do that
Right.
with cannabidiol.
Right. So what about someone coming in and asking you about a certain kind of strain potentially?
Right.
Thank you,
So
Dan.
interestingly, that
you.
migraine study, that prospective migraine study that I mentioned before with the app, they actually tracked
My rating's
what
gonna
kind
go
of
up.
cannabis they were smoking, and they tracked it with, is it a heavy THC cannabis strain, or is it more of a little bit heavier CBD strain cannabis? And they found that it didn't really matter, right? Nonetheless, any sort of cannabis strain helped their headaches, right? So I'm wondering, is there a particular kind of strain that maybe you would
Interesting.
recommend, or that has been shown to have particular efficacy
Hi,
in the
Indian
context
God.
of pain?
So I don't. I think the answer is I don't think so, and I don't know.
Okay.
And this again touches on why I think a lot of physicians are uncomfortable with endorsing this, because
Right.
unless you're prescribing one of the compounds I just described legally, you are advocating for your patient to enter a relatively unregulated world where
industry.
you really kind of don't know about
What they're
dosing and
getting.
milligrams and whether a particular strain is better than another strain,
Right.
and you're kind of relying on the
Right.
friendly young person behind the counter at the dispensary, who's probably really sincere, but is not a pharmacologist.
Right.
Is not a pharmacologist. A lot of shade coming from Dr. Thomas Strauss. Very interesting. Interesting. Cool. I'll have to check this out. More on this. Doctor says take heroin. Right. Here, take some heroin instead. Opiates. Okay. Well, basically, they have synthetic cannabinoids. And so they can be more specific in what they're doling out, right? Dan thinks it's deserving. Hey, listen, here's something I get asked all the time. People, very even-handed position, too even-handed. No, I think it's actually the right position to take as a doctor. I think that gives me more confidence in what he has to say, that he has such a hard line about what he's willing to recommend. Our bodies are so complex, right? And so when you have all of these different strains and compounds in combination with the cannabinoids, it introduces a bunch of different variables that makes it even more difficult for them to pinpoint what is working how. So, I mean, it took a really long time for them to figure out what was the active compound in cannabis. And it was Dr. Raphael Mechoulam in Israel. And I tell the story in my book. He found hash, or not found. He was able to get hash from the government and do testing on it. And it was the one, he did it because no one else was doing it, because it was, illegal everywhere. And so he found THC, and then who was it? I had a bit about her too in the book, but then, I had to edit things. Was not Dr. Was it Dr. Wasn't Dr. Raphael Mechoulam. He discovered THC, right? And then there was a doctor, what was her name? Who discovered the CB1 receptor? Was the CB, there we go. One receptor was initially identified and described by Alan Howlett. And I'm guessing this is who. Let me see if this is. Yeah, here we go. You guys will probably want to watch this. Let me pull it up here. Oh, wait 1 second. What's going on? A lot of people are not aware that doctors, most of them don't really study nutrition as far as treating you with foods and vitamins. It's really hard, right? They're only trained and study pharmaceuticals, right? I mean, and nutrition is super complicated. It's a whole other thing of to itself, and everybody's body is so different, right? You look at celiac, or if you have, I'm actually one of the recipe, what I'm cooking this weekend is dedicated to Dr. Riley Kirk. She just had an announcement on her channel, on her platforms, about her pregnancy, and it is high risk. So I want everyone to just, keep her in your hearts, and just be thinking good thoughts of her. And bye, Ochinomu. See you later. And so we're going to do some recipes that are low in fat. She has bile buildup in her body, and it's not like her diet could change what is going on in her body. It's nothing to do with that. But my thought was, okay, what are some foods that at least won't be requiring her liver to produce more bile to digest? Because basically she's got like her gallbladder and her liver. The bile is stored in your gallbladder, and then it's, used with the liver, excreted through your liver to metabolize food. So if you eat a lot of fat, especially animal fats, things like that, saturated fat, you'll have, I do capsules, Logan, right? So I am going to I've been cooking a lot of beans, and I just think this, with this economy and just with health and wellness, as let's get into it. We're going into summer. Let's cook something healthy. And so we're going to do beans, which is really good for I don't want to say cleaning, but it attaches fiber. High fiber foods help attach to bile and help you excrete it, right? It just helps create mass in your body. And then you still want to eat a lot of fat. So we're going to find a way to make it low fat, high fiber, all good things. And then she's pregnant too. So obviously she's not going to infuse it unless she wants to. I don't know. I'm not a mom. I don't tell people what to do with their bodies. But I'm going to show you how to infuse it because it's the Edibles Club. But that's what we're going to do on Saturday. But I wanted to put this up here because, oh wait, it just stopped. Beans are so good. They're great. And they're really inexpensive, especially when you buy them dried. And the key, you just got to soak them, and then they just take forever, right? You just got to cook the shit out of them. So I can do whatever. I'm open to ideas. We can do lentils. We can do, yeah, Ramona, we can do a good lentil recipe. That's a good idea. Right? So yeah, I just think like it's fun. I've been introducing more beans in my diet, and I will say there is an herb that I'll introduce you to that helps with the digestion of beans. It's called espazote. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it before, but I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Epazote. I'm not saying it right. Look at that. And it's I use it. It's delicious. I've been putting it straight into I chop it up and put it into my beans, and it just, the flavor of it, and it helps, you know what they say, beans, magical fruit, the more you eat, the more you toot. That's not been an issue. I've been sitting here with you guys for the last couple of hours, and I can say, like, I've got a microphone on me, and I have not tooted. So, and I had beans for breakfast, okay? I had black beans that I cooked with the epazote. I finished it with it. So it is a worm seed is an annual or short-lived perennial herb. Now, mine is actually or annual or short-lived perennial. Mine came back this year. It died and then it came back. Are you guys laughing at me? Do ham and beans. Logan, I'm trying to do low fat. I know. That's how you make beans taste good. You put put some bacon in it. You know what I mean? But we're trying to do low fat, or if we're using fat, we're going to use olive oil. So we can do something with lentils. We could do a few different things. I'm just going to do a whole bean. It's going to be a bean weekend. We're going bananas for beans. Okay. But I love beans all sorts of ways. I think beans are amazing. I'm going to get some water.
This is a special episode of Bioactive because we are sitting down with the scientist who discovered the receptor in the brain that THC binds to, and therefore one of the most important people in cannabis science history. Her name is Dr. Alan Howlett. I think a lot of people think that this happened a really, really long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things, because Dr. Howlett is still actively doing research and actively studying how this plant, these receptors, these enzymes, and these different molecules interact with the brain. And what you might not know about the discovery about how THC works in the brain is that a significant amount of this research into cannabis in the early years of research was completed by and funded by big pharma scientists. Also, many of you now know that I recently announced my pregnancy, so I will be doing an episode on my own personal journey, as well as talking to some medical professionals about cannabis and pregnancy on the show. I know this is a very stigmatized topic, but it's also a much needed conversation that I am more than willing to share at least my personal experience on, and of course listen to yours. I'll also be launching a few different research studies in the next few months to dive into this a little bit further. So stay tuned for that. And as always, make sure you leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to Bioactive, unless of course you hate women, weed, or science, but don't make me guess which one. So make sure you take a sip of water, stretch your legs, and just chill with Dr. Howlett and I for the next hour or so. All right, welcome back to the Bioactive Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Riley Kirk, and I have a very special guest today.
Wait. Make sure my mic is on. Congratulations, Logan. I got my first successful indoor garden. Awesome. Hash hummus. Hello. My grandma used to make lentils a lot. Fraggle Rock potheads. Did you have a bad relationship with lentils or no? I have a hummus recipe in my cookbook. I called it hemp hummus. Hash hummus would have been a cute idea too. I have a guacamole as well, and I will say the guacamole is a little gringa, okay? But I give you options if you don't want to do it. And there's a little story there. Yeah, I have a hemp hummus in here. It's got a little funny story. Anyway, hummus is great too. We could make the devil's lettuce cups. So good. We could make hummus. Do you guys want to make the devil's lettuce cups? Michelle, all I know is back in my 20s, we referred to ecstasy pills as beans. Oh my God, you're funny. Doesn't THC cross the placenta? I don't know, my friend. All I know is sometimes women get really, really sick during pregnancy and they don't have any kind of research. Bonbon, my food's here. Oh boy. Whoa boy, I wish I could show you guys, but the Bonbon cam is not working. Show preview. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. She's tough. She is tough. Okay, Bonbon. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the cam to work, but I think I got to delete it. Okay, that's enough, you little stinker. That's enough. Okay. You don't need to get all up in the shit, okay? Why doesn't ever... Really? It's on the GoPro. Why? Hey! Basta. Basta Bonbon. Basta Bonbon. Oh, is it? Maybe it's frozen. Let me quit this GoPro bullshit. God damn it, motherfucker. Okay, then she's got to go, and she's such a bad girl. All right, I'm gonna play this and get my tacos.
Dr. Alan Howlett, who is a renowned neuroscientist who actually discovered the cannabinoid 1 receptor, or the CB1 receptor that THC binds to. So if you are somebody who likes to consume cannabis and you feel those effects in your brain, you can thank Dr. Alan Howlett for being able to understand what's happening in the brain. This is an absolutely massive discovery in the neuroscience and cannabis space, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Howlett on to not only discuss the journey of discovery, but just talking about what that means and what has been done since that discovery in the cannabis space. So welcome to the show, Dr. Howlett, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Now, would you mind just describing how you got into cannabis research in the beginning? Where did it all start?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, when I started cannabis research, I had no interest at all in cannabis. I had...
Oh, shit.
What is it?
God damn it. Not that
discovery.
Guy. Gross. Nice. Yes. Okay. I liked iced tea with tincture. Yes. My Mountain Dew with tincture. Yeah, put a little tincture in there. There's enough syrup. I mean, Mountain Dew, I feel will thick. You know what I mean? Okay. So this is, oh my God, they brought me. What is going on? I got Pinches tacos. Okay. How do they bring me these tacos? I think they wanted me to experience. These are the fucking strawberry filled churritos here. What is in here? And here's my little gringa tacos, okay? Right? Here's our gringa tacos. Gringa tacos. Guacamole. Nice color. Simple. Looks simple. I got salsa roja, salsa verde. It's not as bad as cigarettes. I don't know, you guys. And I have a pico de gallo here. Nice little pico. We love it. And then this looks like kind of more of a lighter salsa. So let me try this one with a little squishy squashy. Try to open the lid here. I'll let you guys see. Little break in our sesh. Damn it. Why won't... I'm so mad that the GoPro isn't working. That's good. Ooh, that's nice and spicy. I love it. That needs to go on my tacos. That's what needs to happen. All right, you guys. I like all the sauces. That's the problem. It's like, how do I eat this without getting it on the microphone? And on the floor. We're going to go to the main. We did. Okay. Here's my taco. Oh, don't get on the microphone, Vanessa. I'm going to pour this kind of thin, drippy, spicy ass tomato salsa here. Right, my friends? But I got 2 tacos, so I got to save. Oh, shit. We're dripping. We're dripping. We're dripping. I want more salsas. Oh, shit. Oh, no. We're dripping. A little more salsa. This is like the roja. Okay. Oh, my God. We're making a mess. We're going for it. Don't get it on the microphone. Tilt your head. It's hard to eat when you have, oh, my God, earphones in. I'm taking this out because I can't eat this with ear things in. Okay, this is fucking good. Uh-oh. Bye, Stan. Sorry I'm eating a taco. It's dinner time for me. Oh my God, it's so spicy. I'm sorry, Petra. I love this. This makes me happy. Okay. Oh my God. I either just need to eat the second one. I really need a napkin. Buen provecho. Manja manja. That bite was worth my super chat. You got it. Welcome to Vanessa ASMR taco session segment. Yes. If that's your thing, I'm really enjoying these tacos. I've got one more. I got to eat it before it gets soggy, right? These aren't like sit around. They're also better not delivery, but oh wait, let me show you. I don't know what I'm doing. I put the rest of that salsa on here. I'm going to try the salsa verde. We're switching it up. All right, she's messy. She's messy. Oh my God. Spicy. Not as spicy as the red. Okay, very drippy. I put too much sauce. It's all about the beef. This is okay. It's all about the beef. Duh. Too messy. Oh my God. I thought to myself, should I get paper towels? And for some reason, I didn't think yes. Excuse me. amazing. Okay. I just need to try a couple more things, okay? Okay. One, let's try this pico de gallo. That was pretty messy, but I tried my best. Oh, shit. This is juicy, too. Here we go. Sorry I didn't show you those tacos close up, but one... Ooh, God damn it. Fuck. Anyway. Let's try it. Okay. Pretty good. Are the chips a little... They're pretty good. I mean... Okay. Guac. Guac o'clock. I know. I'm sorry, Eddie. I like my guac to have more chunk. But pretty good. And way more spice. I love spice. Okay. Let me cleanse my palate. Okay. You know what I really care about? I didn't realize they had like strawberry in the middle of them. But I'm not necessarily mad about it. I think it's strawberry. Maybe it's raspberry. Another thing that obviously is way better when it's fresh and it hasn't been like steamed in these little... Jaden, I agree. I love salty limey. Love lime. These are fucking good. I don't know. All I ever want to eat is dessert. That's my problem. And I would dip this in like a caramel. Yep. Cody, Vanessa, have you ever visited Dr. Green Thumb Dispensary? If not, what's your best recommendation for a collective in LA? Dr. Green Thumb is always great. We love supporting B. I really love Cornerstone Wellness in Eagle Rock if you're on the east side. And then the Woods in West Hollywood is great too if you want to go to a lounge. This is good. Little churro filled with jam. Cornerstone Wellness. Let's see. Where did our chat go? Okay, let's bring back our browser now that we had that wonderful time together. That was fun. Oh, wait, where did this go? Damn. No, it's not for you, Boban. Let me put these in. I might eat some more of these churros. I'm not going to lie. They're very good.
in the cannabis space. So welcome to the show, Dr. Howlett, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Now, would you mind just describing how you got into cannabis research in the beginning? Where did it all start?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, when I started cannabis research, I had no interest at all in cannabis. I had just finished my postdoc and was very interested in studying a little bit about some of the neurons, neuronal hormones and neurotransmitters. And so my study area was using cultured neuronal cells.
Wow.
And at the time, the Nobel Prize winners for prostaglandins had just done some studies indicating that there were prostaglandins and there were receptors for those, prostaglandin D and prostacyclin. And I checked, and they were all prostaglandins that responded in my cells. So you may know prostaglandins are the compounds that are all involved in pain and other kinds of signalings. And when we use aspirin, acetaminophen, and other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, what we're doing is blocking the synthesis of the prostaglandins. But there wasn't anything that could block the prostaglandin receptors themselves. So that was what I was studying. And in the process of doing that, I came across a paper from some chemists at Pfizer, Ross Johnson and Larry Melvin. They were involved in a big project at Pfizer Chemical to look for agents that could be used for pain relief that were not based on opioids, and they were not non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And there's a good reason for that, because as we all know, the opioids can be very dangerous with respect to tolerance and physical dependence. And the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory.
A lot of calories in these, just so you guys know. Everything I ate tonight. It's okay. We're going to work out.
Agents tend to be limited to pain that has to do with inflammation. So their goal had been to try to provide some kind of pain relief for people who wanted at-home pain relief rather than pain relief from a hospital setting. So they were very intrigued by the cannabinoids. There were papers that had been published in animal models, rats and mice, about pain relief. And so they were just one of 3 or 4 very large pharmaceutical companies who were pursuing cannabinoids. I think that most people don't even recognize that Pfizer and Abbott and we're all working with projects to utilize cannabinoid compounds for, in particular, for pain relief, but also for anti-anxiety and a couple of other things. So I contacted the Pfizer chemists when I saw their paper that said that they thought that because of the structural similarity of the prostaglandins versus delta-9 THC and its active metabolite with the hydroxyl group on it, that they were probably particular for pain relief, but also for anti-anxiety and a couple of other things. So I contacted the Pfizer chemists when I saw their paper that said that they thought that because of the structural similarity of the prostaglandins versus delta-9 THC and its active metabolite with the hydroxyl group
I don't even know how it got hit sometimes. I'm so sorry. Okay, let me start that all fucking over again. So I wanted to look up the definition of prostaglandins. I'm sorry, Liberty Genetics, my bad. I just had to wait until someone said I was muted. Okay, so my bad. I just touched the mic and it turned it off. Prostaglandins are hormone-like substances produced by the body, playing a crucial role in inflammation, pain, and blood clotting. They are involved in various physiological processes, including regulating blood flow, promoting tissue healing, and controlling the reproductive system. Hormone-like substances, they act as local hormones, influencing the function of nearby cells and tissues, inflammation and pain. They are key mediators of inflammation, pain, and fever. Blood clotting, prostaglandins play a role in regulating blood vessel constriction and dilation, influencing blood clotting and the formation of clots, right? And you'll find that cannabis can really impact your blood pressure. Reproductive system, they're involved in regulating the menstrual cycle, ovulation, childbirth, induction, synthesis, are derived from arachidonic acid and a fatty acid and are produced by enzymes called COX, cyclooxygenases. So this is what she's going to keep talking about. I just wanted us to know what she was saying. I wanted to know what she was saying when she was talking about these prostaglandins
on it, that they were probably acting as blockers of the prostaglandin receptors.
Wow.
So,
Oh, because of the structural similarity, they said, okay, these probably act in a similar way, but maybe a different mechanism.
Just based on that. So
Okay.
I wrote a letter to them, and I told them that I had a model system. I was studying prostaglandin receptors.
Bye, Logan.
And I was very
See you
intrigued
later.
by their hypothesis, and I thought that I could test their hypothesis in my cultured cells. And I thought that was a very good idea because, you know, if you put drugs into an animal model, you have to worry about uptake and distribution and does it get into the brain. But if you do cell culture, you're adding it directly to the neurons. So,
Right, reducing those questions and just making sure you can figure out that little piece of the puzzle.
That's right. So they sent me not only the drug that I had asked for, which was the one they were talking about, but also...
So this was not THC. This is a different
Right.
drug
It
that
was
they thought would be
similar to THC because
Okay.
what drug companies do is they take a compound, they try to make it so that it lasts a little longer in the
Shelf
body,
life. Oh.
is more active at a much lower concentration, that it's more specific for certain kinds of things. So they do a lot of manipulation to get their compound modified so that it's got better properties. So they sent me that.
Let me
They
do
said
this for
also
people. Sorry.
that it gets acetylated for drug reasons. It lasts longer in a pill if it's acetylated. And so they gave me the deacetylated, which would be what happens after the liver takes the acetyl group off. So they sent me more than what
Wow.
I'd asked for. And I tested it, and it was not going to support their hypothesis. It didn't look like their compounds had anything to do with prostaglandin signaling in the brain or in the cell culture either. So I wrote them back, and they invited me to visit. Now,
Bonbon.
I should tell you that at the time, Pfizer had already dropped the project.
Ooh.
Because Pfizer's idea was that they wanted an at-home use because there were already a number of opioids that were used in the hospitals, but because of those properties of tolerance and physical dependence and sedation, and that they
Just wasn't safe.
that they couldn't really put something on the market that would be that way. But they found that in their clinical trials, and they had done clinical trials on pain in hospital settings, that the better the pain reliever from all of the compounds that they made, the more side effects they were getting. So the side effects are the obvious ones. They are things like
Not bad blood pressure. I just know that it impacts blood pressure.
sedation.
I think it lowers your blood pressure, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends what your blood pressure is.
Or muddled thinking, and scientists call that cognitive dysfunction, and a few other things, maybe dizziness and loss of short-term memory. Now, these are things that really don't matter if you're in the hospital, because if you're in the hospital in a pain situation, you could probably use the rest, so sedation didn't matter. You're not doing anything important with your brain, but as an at-home analgesic, they felt that it wouldn't be a good market. So they officially dropped the project. Now, that was bad for mankind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, if they had continued this, and this was, I believe, 1982 when they dropped the project, we wouldn't be having all of these problems now with should we legalize, should we not legalize, is cannabis a good pain reliever, is it not a good pain reliever? We would have had a legitimate pharmaceutical.
How crazy is that it
Oh, well, that's funny. Liberty Genetics. I mean, like I said, depends on your body, depends on a lot of different things.
just is really like hindering on that decision of a big pharmaceutical industry if this medicine works or not? Even though we have millions of people saying it does, it's still not accepted because way back then it was never done by a big pharmaceutical company. That is insane.
That's right. Although the compounds that we have now include Marinol, which is delta-9 THC. It's just that it is made in its synthetic form. And we also have a compound by Lilly, which was made in that very same era. It's very similar to delta-9 THC, but it's got some modifications that make it a better pharmaceutical. And so it's been available for compassionate purposes all of this time, but it's now used in Canada, and it has been part of the pharmacopoeia here in America for some time. But I think people don't really recognize this as medical marijuana, but these compounds were the first medical marijuana. On the other hand, in 1982, because the company did drop the project as a pharmaceutical, that made it very easy for the chemists to be able to offer those of us who do research a variety of compounds to be able to use in our basic science research.
Nice.
And they were very free about doing that because this was before the Bayh-Dole Act, which you may be familiar with, but that was an act of Congress that allowed universities to be able to make a profit on the research that was occurring in the universities. And once that happens, then you get concerns about patent protection and you get lawyers that are involved.
Money.
But this was before that. So all I needed to do was write a letter to the chemist advisor and say, please send me a few milligrams of the following items.
Of your finest chemicals for me to test on my
well,
assays.
That's right. And, that was pretty standard procedure back in those days. Most of us got our prostaglandins from Upjohn, and they were... pharmaceutical companies were very happy to be able to give compounds to basic science researchers who could then provide the information that pharmaceutical
They need to
companies
sell
needed
it.
to move forward. So that's how I got involved. And in the process of doing these searches for information, I found out, and I had been totally naive about this, I just assumed that since cannabis was in the 1980s a very highly used compound,
Very.
that neuroscientists knew how it worked. But when I went to look through the research literature to find out what
nothing.
was available, there was very little information.
Right. See?
How cool. I love when there's just
That's
a
how I
huge
felt.
open gap in research and you're like, oh my God.
That's how I felt about the research for home cooks. I know this is not on a scientific level, but for home cooks, for edible makers, there's no research on how to cook with the plant, even though it's been cooked with for centuries. So we're going to get into that next. Let's keep going.
Gosh,
Yes.
this is still so much opportunity here.
Well, there is, but I was not part of the group of people who were really very interested in behaviors and the chemistry of cannabinoid compounds. So, I was coming in from the outside. And, I think that really does help. People come in from the outside
It does help.
without the prejudices and the biases of what they generally think.
And that can go both ways. Like, I'm certainly biased, but in the other way, like, I'm so pro cannabis, but there's also the other people that are so anti-cannabis that they can't really see straight and think of anything else other than drug addiction and reefer madness, you know?
Mm-hmm. So I was certainly helped by the chemists at Pfizer because they provided about 60 compounds, and that's how many they were making and testing, and so we could do what's called structure-activity relationships. So that means if you've got 60 different compounds that have small modifications in their structure, then you can decide what the best outcomes would be for what kind of modifications.
And you can compare and say, okay, this molecule has a little arm on it and it's acting this way in my assay, and this molecule has an oxygen on it and it's acting this way in my assay. And you can kind of start to piece together like what parts matter the most, which ones are most, doing the most, doing the least. I love SAR studies as a natural product chemist.
Yes. So I worked with the Pfizer chemists, and because the company was no longer interested, the value for research was that the chemists could get the data that Pfizer had. They had 5 different assays, ways of testing pain in an animal model. So we could compare what I was seeing in my cell cultures with what they were seeing in these different assays.
Very cool.
Their data would never have been published if we hadn't pursued it together as a team, or rather 2 teams.
Right. And I mean, that is a nice collaboration of like big pharma and an academic institution, because you kind of have that method of checks and balances too.
Yes.
So you were still using the
So ASAs are the American Society of American Science. What does it stand for? I don't know if that's what they're saying. Do you guys know what they're saying when they say that? Sorry to go back again.
They're chemists, and because the company was no longer interested, the value for research was that the chemists could get the data that Pfizer had. They had 5 different assays, ways of testing pain in an animal model.
Okay.
So we could compare what I was seeing in my cell cultures with what they were seeing in these different assays.
Very
So
cool.
their data would never have
Cool.
been published if we hadn't pursued it together as a team, or rather two teams.
Right. And I mean, that is a nice collaboration of like big pharma and an academic institution, because you kind of have that method of checks and balances too.
Yes.
So you were still using the cell-based assay at this point for the prostaglandins, correct?
No, now we're using cell-based assays for cannabis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry. The one that you developed for prostaglandins, but you're testing cannabis compounds on it.
Yes, but
Okay.
we worked again with the Pfizer chemists. Now, the chemists had prepared something that could be made into a radioactive compound, because when the pharmaceutical companies need to send something to Food and Drug Administration, they need to provide the information on what happens when you give that drug in the body. So in that era, most of what we did was using radioactive compounds so that we could
That's
tell
funny.
where they were
BioRock.
in the body, where they are in the cell, and what they're broken down to after they've passed through the liver. So so they already had a method of making something radioactive. Now they had
So they were
stopped-
tagged. Sorry, they were tagged with a radioactive signal.
Yes.
So then if you either put it in your cell culture or you gave it to an animal, you could track how that was carrying
That's right.
through. Okay.
So if it
cool.
was in an animal and it goes to the brain, then you'd be able to find it in the brain. Some compounds won't get through the
a little
blood-brain barrier, so that's an important thing to know. If it goes to the liver's got enzymes that will modify it. And,
Right.
and we really need to know what those are. So, but the company had dropped the project, so there was no use for them for a radioactive compound. But there was for me. So they gave me the precursor, and I sent it to one of the leading radioactivity companies, which was called New England Nuclear at the time, and now it's part of DuPont. But they they made a radioactive compound for me, and so we could use homogenates from rat brains, and we could use our cultured cells, and it would pick up this radioactive analog that was very similar to delta-9 THC, called CP55940. 55940 is generally how I call it. So that compound now is radioactive, and anything that competes for it in its binding site, we can pretty much assume would be binding to that binding site. So THC was a very good competitor. But THC itself would not be a very good compound to radiolabel for many reasons, because it wasn't nearly as potent as the compounds that Pfizer had made, number one. And number two, it's a very lipid-soluble compound, and so it gets into all the membranes of the cells, and
Yeah, we're just a big old lipid bubble. So
That's
we're
right.
it's really easy to lose lipids in a big lipid bubble.
that's right. But
I probably
but
have
there were
so
ways that
much
we could modify the
weed in my
procedures
fat.
so that we could identify this. So now we had a tag that we could identify a protein. And so that was really very useful for every researcher
Hi.
in the world. And so
Hi,
because
Dan.
DuPont made it, they could sell
Welcome
it.
back.
So
As they do.
yeah, so it became available for worldwide use. So that's really the tool that it takes to say this is working at a cannabinoid receptor, because if you're studying bone metabolism, for example, and you think that a cannabinoid agonist for the cannabinoid CB1 receptor is involved, then you can take your tissue and decide whether they actually have cannabinoid receptors, and whether that goes changes in pathologies or not. So
So through the same method of, for example, with the rat brain, you would take that and homogenize it, mix it, put it.
Bonbon. Seriously? If you could see the way she throws her head back when she barks, it's really, really fucking funny. Anyway, I'm going to keep going because we could watch this all day. I'm going to drop this link. Oh, shit. Where's the link? I'm going to drop this link. So if you want to keep watching this.
Example. And you think that a cannabinoid.
That we're going to do it today. But I think it's very interesting to understand all of this and to listen to them talk about it. Very cool. She's talking about how she discovered the CB1 receptor. Bonbon is. Can you see her? Oh, I don't think so. Let me see if I can get her in there. There you go. You see her? There she is. She's very focused on what's going on. Now she's relaxing. That's Bonbon. Cookie time. No cookies. I had churros and plenty of churros. Okay, so let's look at I wanted to look at. Let's keep going. I just want to talk a little bit more about some of the medicinal benefits of cannabis, right? So we talked about chronic pain relief. Not obviously, but there is, this one's affects a lot of people, from our veterans to survivors to just anxious people, you know? And that's anxiety and PTSD. So CBD is really the star there. Definitely helps with anti-anxiety. And I know a lot of people, you know, when I was at Cornerstone for the cookbook doing a signing, I know a lot of people who use, who are just there for the CBD, and they kind of, I can tell they feel a little sheepish about it. And I'm like, no, there's no pressure to use THC. Use whatever works for your body. And if CBD is right for you, or if nothing, do you. Whatever works or doesn't work. But I know that CBD is really, really great for people. Then another one is epilepsy. And Charlotte's Web was a big, she was who helped to legalize. Oh, my uncle is calling me again. 1 second. Hello, Uncle. I'm awake. No, it's only 7. It's getting dark. Yeah. Yes. It's only 4 there. Oh, call me right before your beach walk. Sounds fun. Oh, you're going to go boogie board. Okay. Well, that sounds fun. Yeah, nice. With the sunset. Oh, okay. Too windy, yeah. Okay. Good. Doing my best. Doing my best. Hanging out with my I'm doing a live stream. Don't worry, I didn't put you on. You're not on speakerphone, but I'm doing a live stream right now. But I saw this. I know. I was the second time you called, so I got concerned, and so I was like, oh no, I hope everything's okay. And then I'd never put you on the air otherwise. Don't worry. You're not. They can't hear you. They can only hear me. Yes. Probably not very entertaining for them. Have fun boogie boarding. I hope you get to go. Okay, Uncle. Bye. All right. Sorry about that. When your uncle calls you twice, you're like, oh shit, what's going on?
Agonist for
just
the
wanted to talk.
cannabinoid CB1 receptor
Oh wait, we're
is
done
involved.
watching this. Sorry, ladies. My bad. You can still hear me. My mic is still on. Okay. Susie Q was my lady. Hi, Uncle. Yeah, he's not a very he's a private guy. Dan Fernandez is a carpenter. I once did a job that destroyed my back physically and I could barely walk. I got a CBD brownie just to see and it completely made me feel better within 15 minutes. I was amazed. CBD is great. So isn't that great? We love it. And I was pulling up something. I wanted to pull up this to pay an homage. We might not get to the historic, but we're going to see what we can do today. Okay? Okay. Let's see this. How short this is. Oh, it seems long. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't copy the clip. 1 second, my friends. Let me copy this. I have what I want. Here we go. It's only
We are
6 minutes.
remembering and
Perfect.
honoring
Oh, wait.
13-year-old Charlotte Figge. She
I
passed
think
away
you guys
Tuesday
can hear, but I
after a
can't
long
fucking hear.
battle with a rare form of epilepsy. She became a symbol of the possibilities of medical marijuana after our own Dr. Sanjay Gupta shared her story in his documentary, Weed, and he has more on her life.
Oops. Sorry about that.
For the last 20 years, I have straddled the world of medicine and journalism. And in both professions, I'm always reminded, stay objective, do your best work, but don't get too close. But with little Charlotte Figge, that was impossible. She just had this way about her, that smile, that giggle, that just got you and captured your heart.
You remember me?
That was June 2019, the last time I saw Charlotte.
Oh, wait, I had
and she
something
was
to show
doing
you.
great.
Where's that? Well, looking pretty good, sweetheart.
I can't imagine she'd be 12 years old and seeing her at 12 years old and what that would
Wow.
look like. She was dying.
Really well.
When I first met Charlotte, it was 2013, for our first film on medical marijuana called Weed.
Pitter patter, pitter pat, tiptoe, creep crawls in the cave.
A little weird.
We had heard about this amazing 6-year-old from Colorado who had a rare form of
This
epilepsy.
is that girl, Dan.
She had a seizure every 30 minutes, every one potentially fatal. No treatment had worked.
Poor baby.
And then one day, desperate, her parents gave her a
She's like, "Give her
non-psychoactive
some quick-
ingredient
give her
from the
chocolate
cannabis
chips."
plant called cannabidiol, or CBD.
CBD.
This is Charlotte's Web. She didn't have
Wow.
a seizure that day. And then she didn't have a seizure that night. Yeah. Right. I thought, this is crazy.
And it was at that moment people started to see that marijuana,
That's
which had been
awesome.
considered dangerous,
That's true,
could also
Dan.
be a therapy.
Yep.
She changed my mind and opened my eyes to the
Yep.
possibility that this was a legitimate medicine.
Yes.
And in the process, she changed the world.
Probably the most important thing I'll ever do was to help my own child and then share that information, help others.
Charlotte Figge
Really cool.
was the entire CBD movement wrapped up into a sweet little girl with a big smile and an even bigger heart. Her story changed policy about cannabis.
Yep.
States were inspired by the story of Charlotte Figge and made CBD more accessible around the United States to treat epilepsy. And in turn, scientists around the world wanted to study Charlotte's special CBD oil, research that before Charlotte, no one really seemed that interested in doing.
That was just ethanol, right?
Begging researchers and physicians to work with us and help us understand the phenomenon that we were seeing, and they absolutely wouldn't even talk to us.
Right.
We're laughed out of rooms. Now they beg to research our product.
She's happy and outside, and this is her jam.
Yeah, those
Charlotte
Colorado,
lived
those
her
family.
short life to the fullest. And while she was almost this mythical miracle, she was also just a little girl who loved to go tandem biking with her mom. And while the last month was not easy, she had symptoms of COVID-19 while never testing positive.
Shit.
She eventually developed pneumonia, which once again unleashed her seizures. Her mother, Paige, says Charlotte was still smiling and happy until the very
Poor
end,
baby.
when a seizure became more than her fragile little body could handle. Charlotte's life ended just as it began, in her mother's arms, surrounded by family who loved her, cherished her, and protected her.
Oh my God.
All forever changed by this little girl who forever changed the world, and everyone, like me, who were caught in her glorious orbit. Please rest in peace, Charlie.
I didn't realize this was going to be so sad. I'm sorry. He wants to cry too.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about her and the impact that she... I'm sorry.
All right, I don't want to watch this. It's making me cry. Okay. All right, so epilepsy and then nausea. Let's go, and then let's go into... Sorry, you guys. Okay, so now let's go. We're going to keep on going because I need to not get all teary-eyed. It's on the cusp there. So we've talked about resin, we've talked about relief. Now let's talk about my favorite thing, recipes. So cannabis and food didn't start with pot brownies. It didn't start with marigold sweets. It started thousands of years ago, across cultures, across continents. And some of them did it before anybody else. So we are going to look at, I know, right, Dan? We're going to look at some recipes. There's not, honestly, on YouTube too much about the history of cooking with cannabis. But we're going to watch something. Okay, we're going to watch a little video that's not going to make us cry.
Hey, it's Matt from Rough House Studios, and welcome to Canna Basics. Today we're going to be making classic Moroccan Beija.
So intense.
For this episode of Canna Basics, we're shooting at YouTube Space LA. So a big thank you to YouTube Space LA for letting us shoot that there. And also, this episode is sponsored by waxliquidizer.com. So check out waxliquidizer.com or stick around to the end of the episode to learn more about
I have his voice
them.
in my left ear and the music in my right. And
now here's what you need to make this 1,000-year-old recipe.
Now
You need 2 tablespoons of butter or ghee. You need a quarter ounce of cannabis or equivalent, 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg,
to this
a teaspoon
riff,
of
man.
anise seeds, and
Listen
a teaspoon
to
of
this
dried ginger.
motherfucking
You need
riff.
a half a cup of honey, a quarter cup of dark chocolate, which is optional, a half a cup
Are
of
they
water,
gonna talk about the
1
history
cup
at all?
of dried pitted dates, half a cup of raisins, and a half a cup of pistachios. When it comes to the cannabis, you can use lots of different varieties of cannabis. I would steer away from BHO, but you could use some solvent-free or some rosin-press shatters or concentrates. You can also use regular cannabis flowers and
That's
hash
cool, Dan.
and keef. And you can also use something creative like this. We're using some 200 milligram THC infused liquid gold honey, which is raw honey and THC oil
Distillate.
mixed together.
Distillate.
You can use whatever combination you want to when it comes to the marijuana and whatever potency that you desire.
I don't like
The first
what
step is going to be to melt over low heat your butter. And you don't want to brown your butter here. You want to keep it over low to medium-low heat. With the
He's gonna
low
chop up
temperature
his
is pretty
weed.
key to this recipe. We're going to be activating and fusing our cannabis right into the butter. So for this one, you're going to go ahead and grind or chop your cannabis, remove any stems and seeds. We're going to add that right into the butter. And you notice I've taken enough off the heat for now just because I'm trying to keep the temperature really low. And I don't
Why?
want to overheat the cannabis. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to activate the cannabis right inside the butter here. So for 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to cook that over very low heat until it just starts to turn brown and becomes very...
I have done lab testing on this, my friends. that is not going to decarboxylate your weed all the way if you do that. Maybe won't be a problem if you go on to like bake after with it, but if you don't heat it again, it won't be fully activated. So you do want to pre-decarb. He's trying to like, this is a different method, but it doesn't work. I ran lab testing on it, and he clearly has not.
It's very strongly aromatic. That's activating our cannabis.
No, Dan, you
then we're
can't.
going to go ahead and measure out our spices.
I mean, like, listen, it will decarb a little bit, but 15, 20 minutes, no, it's not going to decarb long. It's not going to decarb enough. I did lab testing on the decarb rate of flour in oil and in butter. And it takes, I have to check what temperature. I think I did 240. And it takes, so I did oil because butter would brown. If you take it above 212, it starts to brown. It takes like 2 hours to fully decarb once it's in the oil, because the oil like protects the cannabinoids, you know, it's protecting it. So it's not that reaction isn't happening so readily. So listen, I'm not Dr. Riley Kirk and Dr. Alan Howlett. I'm just a cook. But that was what my research showed me, is that it takes longer to decarboxylate in a fat. Okay. In a fat than it does to separately. She's really pissed off because everyone's going for a walk except for her. Okay, chill out, you little stinky. Don't get so huffy. It always kind of freaks me out because I'm like, who's there? BHO is bad all around, in my opinion. Why risk putting butane in your food? I mean, you know, same guy said stay away from BHO for cooking, which makes 0 sense. I trust you far more than these experts. I mean, like, listen, unless you brown for like 20 minutes. No, when, like, even for 20 minutes, it's not going to decarb all the way. Jaden. That's what my lab testing showed me. So, and I know these guys did not run lab testing on this. They're just like, they're getting some effect and they're like, see, it works. And it's like, sure, you're going to get some of it decarbed. Also, it depends like how old his weed is. Maybe if his weed is super old, it's already been decarbing at room temperature. But no.
I've got a teaspoon each of nutmeg, of ginger, and of anise.
I'm just coming from the mindset that we're trying to get all of the, or as much of the potency as possible, right?
Seeds.
Not that anything's
now
wrong
we're
with
going to add
THCA.
that right into that butter, into the cannabis and butter mixture. And this is also going to help cover up the smell. I know when you're doing edibles, a lot of times the smell is a
And
problem.
also, like,
so those spices
doesn't fucking matter because he's about to dump a bunch of distillate dosed honey into his recipe. So who's he to tell if it decarbs? He doesn't give a fuck if it decarbs all the way.
will help cover it up if you add those in. And then also using something like this here, this honey, that's THC infused honey, it really has very little smell of cannabis. So if you're trying to make edibles and a way that you need to keep the smell down, it's a good idea to use something like that instead of using regular cannabis flowers. We're using a combination of pretty much everything in this recipe that's going to be really potent. Okay, and then so I also added in the remaining amount of honey that I needed. So I used the infused honey, and then I used regular honey to make up the balance of the half
I don't
cup.
think this is the traditional
I've also
recipe.
added in the quarter cup of optional dark chocolate. We're going to stir that together in sort of a rough kind of ganache there.
And this
And
is
then now we're
very
gonna add in
similar
half a cup
to
of
Alice
water.
Vitoklis's recipe.
We're adding the water in. That's going to help us stabilize it when we start boiling and cooking out all these remaining dry ingredients. So I've measured out my pistachios, which you could use walnuts or other types of nuts there if you want. And I've put my raisins and my dried pitted dates. Combine those all together. You could chop those pre-hand if you want, but it's really not necessary. We're going to cook this and stew it down and soften them up. So it's fine to go ahead and put that all in together in a pot. And now we're going to let this simmer for, we probably cooked it for about 30 minutes. And what you're trying to do is get all the sugars and everything to cook out of those dates to make sort of like a jelly or a jam. It's going to soften up everything. So after about 30 minutes over that medium to low heat, carefully, more carefully than I did here. Try not to spill it like I did. You're going to put that into either a food processor, which is easier, or you can go old school like I did here with a mortar and pestle, and you're going to start grinding that. And you're trying to crush the nuts, you're trying to make sure all those dates and raisins are sort of pulverized together, and it'll come together into this nice jelly or jam. Like I said, you could use a blender or a food processor if you want it to be more smooth, but honestly, I kind of like these raw, natural looking things like
He
this.
likes it more
And so once it starts to
variable
cool, you can put it
texture.
into a container, what's airtight container, and you can store that in a refrigerator. And there's several ways that you can eat this. You can just eat it right on, like I'm using pita chips here. It makes a great breakfast in that way.
What a nice
That's a good day
dish,
starter.
too.
And you can also cook these inside of pastries. If you want to serve them at a
Nice.
party, this is a pretty neat
Like we
trick
could
that you can
put
do here. You
those-
can take granola or you can take some chopped
You know my cucciadati that I make, the Sicilian Christmas cookies? Those would be good.
nuts. I'm
Okay,
chopping up
let's
some
watch
more
one more.
pistachios here. And then I'm just balling it up into
Before
a
we
little
go. Okay, we don't need to watch all this shit.
This was supposed to be a very simple story, but like anything involved with cannabis, it's way more complicated than it seems. The plan was to make Alice B. Toklas's cannabis brownies. She was the lover of, Gertrude Stein in Paris after the First World War. They started the careers of Cézanne, Matisse, Hemingway. When Gertrude Stein died, her family took back all the art, and Alice Toklas had to make some money, so she wrote this cookbook, into which there was this recipe given to her by a friend of hers.
A bench of cannabis sativa can be pulverized. This, along with the spices, should be dusted over the mixed fruit and nuts.
The way it used to be done in the old days, you'd stick it in the brownie mix and you'd eat it, and it would taste like dirt, essentially. With any luck, this will not taste like dirt.
Oh no, you should make it exactly the way she did it. I don't
This
think it
is
would
essentially
taste like
a blender
dirt.
with an immersion heater. And you take the sativa cannabis, because it's allegedly the sort of brainy, cerebral, talky, as
No,
opposed to the
dude.
couch lock. We don't want
Whatever,
couch
let's
lock.
let
we
this
want,
guy
we
do
want
what he's
more
saying.
intellectual stimulation, because this is the
Who is
globe of
this
man.
guy?
So we put this in there, and a tablespoon of lecithin.
No.
And
Get this
2
shit outta
cups
here.
clarified butter, which I made at home. But how
Why the fuck do you need lecithin with butter?
much you use, who knows? I mean, how many brownies does
They
2
just do
cups
anything.
of butter make? And I would presume that if you only use the marijuana
You don't need
butter
to do it 2 hours.
in the brownies, that they're going to be so
Let me
powerful
just say,
that you'll
that butter was infused an hour and a half, especially with that nice ass machine.
fall over
Stupid.
if you eat one. I mean, this is why the federal government, wants
he
to
didn't
wait,
run
because they'd
testing
like to
on
figure
it,
out a way that
whatever.
each one is the same. But we're
I
gonna
like that little
turn this
machine, though. That's
into a
cool.
Really, I
But
think,
who has that?
delectable dessert.
Can you cut it out? She's not happy. We're gonna have to go.
Hi.
Hi, Ian.
Nice to meet you. Come on in.
In her recipe, she asked for a pat of butter
Right.
and some dried cannabis. So I brought this.
We can replace half the butter, maybe?
Yeah, don't you think?
Yeah. I think most people's experiences with pot brownies is that they're too strong.
It should
Not
be
my
eaten with
pot
care.
brownies.
2 pieces are quite sufficient.
Now, when I said to you, this is
Not the book,
Alice
this
Pitokas's
one's.
recipe, you said, well, that's majun.
It's a very common sweet to
Yeah,
eat
see?
with your tea in Morocco.
Vision.
Mint
Well,
tea.
you drink mint tea. have
Morocco
some
was the
sweets,
first edible, you know.
If there was
Or
hash
Mo-
in the
Motion
sweets,
was the
then
first
bonus.
edible.
Okay, let's read this thing. Take a teaspoon of black peppercorns,
1 whole nutmeg, 4 average sticks of cinnamon, 1 teapot coriander. These should all be pulverized in a mortar. About a handful each of stoned dates, dried figs, shelled almonds, and
This
peanuts.
is kind of like my bliss
Chop
balls a little bit.
these and mix them together.
I just
in
made
Morocco,
mine
this
really pretty.
would be a nice daytime bit of work.
Yeah.
about a cup of sugar dissolved in a big pat of butter.
If
Look at
5
that.
grams is a
Cute,
pat,
right?
then a big pat would be 7 grams?
7 grams. All right. Yeah.
It's funny, most historic documents specify
Rolled
sativa,
into
yeah.
a cake and cut into pieces or made into balls about the size of a walnut.
Cute.
What's the size
That
of a
looks
walnut?
nice.
Are you a walnut-sized judge?
Yeah, it's about right.
Is cooking
Eat
with
it.
cannabis on the horizon for you? For us? Nope. I still want to cross the border.
So do you want to test one?
Cute.
No, I don't think so.
Is there anybody here who will test one?
I can ask around, except they're on staff. It's like-
Yeah. This guy's silly.
But I just wanted to say thank you for sacrificing
Of course,
yourself.
of course.
He's like, my pleasure. Eat an edible on the job.
Very weedy.
Very.
Not
Yeah.
like heavily, but it's the
Does he put
strongest
too much weed?
note.
He thought his lecithin.
Nice kind of date finish.
Maybe
right?
if he hadn't infused the butter for fucking 2 hours, it wouldn't taste just straight like weed. Anyway, enough with this shit. Let's go back to the main video. That's why I wrote my cookbook, How to Eat Weed and Have a Good Time. If you haven't ordered it yet, you can get it today. If you want to make weed butter that better than that guy, you want to know how long it takes and how much to use to get the right potency, then get my cookbook, okay? Spread the word. Here's what I want you to do. All right, everybody, here is what I want you to do. This is the kind of shit that is online. This is what people see. They think it takes 2 hours, 8 hours. I've seen 2 days in a freaking crock pot, okay? Everyone thinks it takes forever. But you and I and we all know that the goal when you're making canna butter is to wash off the trichomes, right? We're not here to get the rest of the stuff in the plant. We're here to just get the potency, and it doesn't take very long. And how do I know that? Because I ran a bunch of lab tests to know how long does it take to wash off those trichomes and have a nice potent butter that doesn't taste like straight up weed. So anyway, we will debunk that. I already did debunk it in here, right in here. Doesn't take a very long time. So, and with tinctures, it doesn't, alcohol, ethanol is very efficient as well, especially if like I said, you use that sonic machine to fucking vibrate off everything. It works really well. Before I go, I want to say, please also, if you want to keep this conversation going, oops. Oh, wait, where am I? I'm in the wrong thing. I want to plug the club. If you want to keep the convo going, you can join here. That was basically the crux of my book, other than the 80 amazing recipes, including my mother infusions. In the mother infusion section, there's a whole thing on infusion rate of, butter. How long does it take? I went up to an hour. I mean, honestly, I went up to 2 hours, but it doesn't really matter after a certain point. I did tincture for up to 30 days. Dan Fernandez, I can't wait for Friday. Which recipe in your book should I do first? I mean, there's savory and there's sweet. There's drinks as well. People have done all sorts of recipes so far. The hot honey firecrackers have been really popular. For the drinks, I really love my Uncle Ned's Wake and Shake. It's delicious. It uses macadamia nuts to give you like this really nice creaminess. Fraggle Rock Pothead, welcome to the Edibles Club. It's a cool club, and we have a good time in that group chat. Please keep sharing your pictures of everything that you're cooking for the club. Every Friday, I'm doing posts with what everyone is cooking on my Instagram. I also, what else was I going to say? Also, if you have gotten the book and you love the book, please, please, please leave me a review on Amazon. It super duper helps me. Like and subscribe to my channel before I go. And I hope you all have a very good evening. Tonight was really fun. I had a good time. I love those tacos. Pinches tacos. Delicious. Really wonderful, churros. And this Saturday, unlike these churros, I'm going to cook something healthy. Okay? So good. Yum. Hot chicken and waffles. Yum. That's a great idea. Love you guys. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Let me do this outro. Thank you so much for joining me today. These are my patrons to the Edibles Club. I love them all. They make this all possible. We had a fun day today talking about concentrates and medical uses of cannabis and who discovered and how they discovered the CB1 receptor and the history of edibles, a little bit of it. And I just want to say, if you learned something new today, like this live stream, share it, spread the word, join the Edibles Club, because we do this every week, every Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. Saturday is the kitchen sesh, 1:20 p.m. Pacific, because I'm in LA. Pick up my cookbook. It's available now. The recipes are excellent, infused or not infused. There's dosing charts. There's a formula for an ethical dose. There's infusion graphs. There's a whole lot of flavor. Grab it, gift it, cook from it, send me pics. Thanks for kicking it with me. As I always say, stay curious, stay kind, and keep your snacks close. See you next time. Same sesh, same time, same channel.